I'm going to save these babies and get the hell out of here. Yeah. And Garp is like, I didn't know any of this was happening. I am curious, do you think there will be an Impel Down 2.0 kind of breakout with the host?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here in Japan.
In Japan.
In the new studio. Look at you.
With an aircon that the audience can't see.
It doesn't quite feel like it's air conditioned yet, but I think that's because things haven't gotten heated yet. I feel like when things get heated,
we can turn it on.
Yeah, we'll turn it on.
Last time you were here, I'm trying to think, was it also autumn time-ish?
No, last time I was here was during Pokemon Worlds.
Yeah, exactly. In Yokohama, right? Yeah.
And it was not this nice.
Summer?
It was extremely hot, extremely
hot and humid.
Me and Reagan had like those little, those quick fan things. The
blasting air.
Exactly.
All right.
And no, I mean, it was a fun trip.
Nice.
Obviously, it's always fun coming.
Yeah.
Always jealous of seeing your photos of things that you're doing just around town. It's pretty cool. But no, otherwise it's been amazing. Mostly this one, the first half of the trip, I'm going to be with all the Japan Time guys. We're basically renting an Airbnb, doing everything. A lot of them, it's their first time
in Japan.
So it's like I get to be the tour guide instead of the tourist, which is kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
And then the second half of the trip, we're going up to Sendai. We're going to do the Zao Fox Village.
Oh.
We're sort of like going more into the nature side of things.
Let me warn you that it's a very sad place to go.
No way, really? Have you been there before? Really?
I went to the Fox Village. I felt terrible about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the experience didn't you like?
I don't know. It's just they have all these foxes, like partly in these like small chicken boxes.
Oh, okay.
And they're just sitting in these like 1 foot by 1 foot boxes. Like,
I thought they're like running around in the forest.
Well, some of them are, some of them in the cave, and then they have like little plaques where it's like, oh, my name is Hachi and I love playing, and then they're just like in the small wooden box.
I assumed it was like the Nara Deer Park where you have all the deer running.
Nah.
Oh, what the heck?
I mean, there's some wild running around, but they're like all fighting each other, and you can see that they're kind of stressed.
Oh,
so
man.
yeah.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, we're going up there, and then after
maybe they
that,
changed
we've
it.
got what's the next area I'm going? Oh, there's Ginzan Onsen.
Oh, Ginzan Onsen,
which is going to be like where we're ending the trip.
Okay.
Which is going to be real cool. So
in case people don't know, it's very famous, obviously in wintertime because it has like the heavy smoke. Yeah, always booked out.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like hopefully it snows at least a little bit.
You think so?
While I'm here
in November,
hopefully it snows.
Maybe.
I'd assume. I mean, it snows in the U.S. in November. Does it not snow in November here?
So the thing with Japan is because you have like even though it kind of runs from north to south, it's usually split like east to west.
I see.
And the entire western side, which kind of faces, China and Russia. And then the eastern side obviously faces the Pacific.
Yeah.
And Japan is mostly mountains, as you know, right?
Of course,
as most people do, because it's like 4 tectonic plates crashing together. So what happens is that the mountains, they act like this wall almost. They catch all the clouds that come from mainland Asia.
Oh, okay.
So on the west side of Japan, it's always very rainy, very snowy, while Tokyo east side, all the way up to Hokkaido, actually.
Really?
It's usually very sunny, very little like rain or snow.
Okay.
So it really depends. I think Ginzan Onsen, because it's in a mountain, I think it might snow, depending on how the weather goes.
I feel like too, it's like a little more out there. I think just like seeing it at nighttime.
Also, Tohoku is a lot colder.
Exactly.
But for example, Tokyo here, like it snows once.
Tokyo,
realistically. Also, you have whole stretches in the summer where it's been like, I think this year it's been sunny for like 4 weeks in a row. Pretty sure. Like,
I mean, the weather the past week has been incredible. I think it's been like overcast just slightly, but it's never rained. I feel like half the time I was here in Yokohama, it was like literally just pouring every other day.
Well, I think if it was June, you said,
it
right?
was June,
which is like rainy season.
Sense,
Exactly.
But no, otherwise we have, like I said, we have a full solid like 2 weeks doing a bunch of stuff, and it should be a lot of fun.
I mean, I haven't done Ginzan Onsen yet, so I'm very curious. It looks absolutely fantastic, obviously.
And we're staying technically in Tendo.
Okay.
I think it's like I want to say it's the Tokoyami Hotel, but there's like, they basically have individual little onsens like in your room, which is
like
really
private
cool.
ones.
Exactly.
Very
so that's
nice.
going to be like,
how's it as an American going in the bath naked with all
mind.
You're good.
I'll let it hang out, bro. I don't care. I had one of my first cosplays I ever did, like however many years ago, right? Like even when you search Rogers Base, was like Senior Pink in a red Speedo. So I'm good. Man.
All right, you're like safe forever.
I have no tattoos either. So
okay, that's good.
I play the Yakuza games, but like otherwise no tattoos.
I only get them for each game.
Exactly.
Scrap them off.
Well, what have you been up to, man?
Good question. I've been like traveling a lot this year, actually. Like
around Japan or like internationally?
More internationally. I've been like back in Europe more often than normal I'm I think you're a little bit older than me, but I'm like in this age where high school friends are starting to get married and stuff.
Sure.
So this has dramatically increased the last 2 years.
Right
so
on.
just traveling between Europe and the US and here. Though I will say I'm a little bit scared right now to go back to the US.
Yeah, maybe don't go back to the US right now. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, which
that's completely fair.
I'm kind of sad because I went last year before the election. And I had a great time. Like for the first time, I did Yosemite, and we did Tahoe.
Nice.
Like camping, saw a brown bear next to my tent, which was a bit scary. I also didn't.
I feel like you guys have a bear problem here,
but they're not that big. But it's the smaller, it's the brown bears. So they don't really kill people. I think it like with elder people it happens, but it's usually like they bite or something, get aggressive. But you can be like loud and like the black bears, right? Sure. But you guys in LA, you have the big boys, right?
Yeah,
we
also have mountain lions. I feel like we got a lot of stuff.
Also, I never it kind of hit me when I was camping for the first time in Tahoe, actually, not Yosemite, that I was not aware how fucking scary coyotes sound.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm used to it.
I was like, what is happening? I was a
southern suburb of Chicago that was kind of in the middle of a forest. And so literally we had coyotes in my backyard like growing up.
Oh my
I was
God.
used to it. So I had little dogs. And
they're like dog size?
Pets. I mean, they're relatively big and you do hear them. And people have to like bring their pets inside.
They
and so,
sound scary,
Okay. They're actually, I feel like they're more scared of humans than we are scared of them.
That makes sense. Which, I mean, goes for most animals, I think.
True.
But the brown bear I have like a lot of respect. I'm not sure, if you know this, there's a story of, and I don't remember where that king was based. Might have been like an old African kingdom, like Roman times. And he was like very rich, so for entertainment he brought like animals from all over the world.
Sure.
And had to like fight, like cage fight.
Oh man.
Like crocodile versus hippo and all that.
Exactly.
And the moral of that story is that the bears fucked up everything.
Everybody.
Everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like they just with their paws are insane apparently.
Well,
they like
you
break.
See them rip up salmon, literally like shredding it as they pick it up in their claws. Yeah. You should know.
You think like I think it was like bear versus crocodile, and like the crocodile, you think with like their armor and everything, it was like just smashing.
Look, all things considered, with everything going on in One Piece right now, I mean, like Kuma, all the stuff going on with bears. I mean, he seems to be the linchpin to a lot of things in the story.
Exactly.
I'm like, things are looking pretty good in the One Piece manga. Like, how are you feeling about it?
How has there never been an actual bear fruit? I'm kind of curious.
I want to say there is actually in one of the non-canon movies.
Is there a non-canon?
I'm almost certain.
So I did.
Isn't there like Grizzly King or something? I could be totally mixing this up. Also, what camera?
This is yours. This is both of us. This is me.
I'm pretty sure there is like a Grizzly King or something in the movie with Honey Queen.
Can I look this up? Because I did.
Look it up.
I just felt like I made it because like 2 weeks ago I recorded a video about all the non-canon fruits, and I don't remember there were like some weird ones.
There's a lot of weird ones.
Do you know the weird ones from? I wasn't aware how weird the live shows get. The stage plays.
Oh, so I actually saw the one that was in One Piece Tokyo Tower before it closed.
Yeah.
Literally
they do one every year. Yeah.
And it was like the girl with like the green hair, right? But I honestly don't even remember like what her devil fruit power was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other non-canon ones from the show. There's the show that's at USJ. But I
they have a USJ one, but then they have like a yearly one too. Since like
so
2012 Roadshows, basically.
Okay, interesting.
And they get like really.
Sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're
good. I just
good.
thought of this. There was a thing that I just found out about. Is there a Friday night roadshow? Is that like a regular thing that airs here in Japan on NHK? It's called Friday Night Roadshow. It's basically like this nightly show where there's different like American movies that play with Japanese subtitles. And the intro to this was done by Miyazaki with the music by
really?
What's the guy who does the music for Spirited Away and for all of his other movies?
Oh my God,
I can't remember what it was. I was just watching a documentary about this though.
We're gonna put it here.
We'll put it on screen. But it's funny because a long time ago, like when I first came here in like 2019, I kept seeing Roadshow on movie posters.
Interesting.
And I'm like, what is this? Because you don't really see that in North America. You just see like release date. And I guess it was a thing for like, when movies were first coming here that like they would go on road shows, that they would take them from one city to one city to one city. People would watch them. And then the term just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And then turned into, like I said,
maybe I'm so used to it from seeing it here.
Yeah. I wanted to go see Exit 8 while I was here.
Did you watch Chainsaw Man yet?
I haven't seen Chainsaw.
Okay.
I'm also like not a huge Chainsaw Man fan. Not the biggest in the world.
Movie's quite good.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite good.
All right.
I think it's worth watching. Yeah.
Even if I'm not a huge Chainsaw Man fan.
I think so.
How bloody is it compared to like the
pretty
normal?
bloody. Pretty bloody. If you don't like, if you're not a gore person, I think that might not be it. That might not be it for you.
Might not be for me. But Exit 8, like I played the original video game.
Nice.
And so I also feel like because all the signs in the train stations are in English,
Yes.
I feel like I can at least get enough from it where if I went to go see it in the cinema, have my little popcorn at Toho, like
Right.
I'll have a good time. Yeah.
I actually haven't been recently in like, which I'm kind of feeling sad about. There just hasn't. I think I do the mistake, and Connor actually always like schools me about this because he watches. Yeah, he watches a lot of movies here in cinemas, but I feel like there has been nothing recently really where I was like with some exceptions where I'm like, I need to. I feel like I want to go see this, and maybe that means just you have to lean a little bit more into like not as popular movies and some more obscure stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the last 2 years I've been kind of a little bit disappointed.
Really? That's also so funny considering like the anime boom that you've seen in cinemas recently. Like I had the pleasure of going to the movie premiere for Demon Slayer.
Oh, that was, I mean,
North America.
Yes.
So like went to the North American premiere, obviously did incredibly well overseas, was like #1 here for a super long time, but was also #1 in the US.
I know.
For like weeks. Beat the record that was like previously held by Pokemon, the first movie back in like 1999.
Was it Pokemon?
It was Pokemon.
Was it not like Princess Mononoke or something?
No. It was Pokemon and then Pokemon 2000 and I think another demon. I think it was like Mugen Train or something.
It probably was Mugen Train.
And that was like all the top. And now I think Chainsaw Man is actually climbing up
in the US
what I believe is like Pokemon 2000, which was the Lugia one.
Yeah, I mean that was a big thing. I mean it's kind of cool to see that you have like bigger names with like Channing Tatum and whatnot, right? Like voice acting. That's kind of fun.
I got to be honest. Like I was not expecting Channing Tatum to do a good job. I was like,
did he?
Yeah, he actually did a good job.
I mean I saw the Japanese one, so I'm not sure, but like from the excerpts I saw, it sounded pretty good.
He did pretty good.
He had fun apparently with it.
I thought was like incredibly beautiful.
Yeah,
in terms of like the visuals.
The visuals insane.
Like,
the story makes like some sense, I think. But like, I mean, that's Demon Slayer in a nutshell. I feel like it just looks so fantastic.
We've never actually talked about this as One Piece creators. We've never talked about our feelings on Demon Slayer because I feel like there is this weird thing within the overall fandom where people are like scared of it. It's strange.
You think so?
Like I saw a lot of this during like 2020 and 2021, specifically during COVID, when Demon Slayer was like topping all the sales charts for manga.
Oh, like scared, like in terms of
like they were like downplaying its success. Like, well, this will never be One Piece. This will never be. And I'm like, why are you? One Piece has been #1 forever.
Yeah.
Like, why do you feel the need to have to defend something that's already #1? If another thing is #1 temporarily. I don't know if you feel it as much here because there's like ebbs and waves, and One Piece is a constant. But I feel like in North America specifically, there's always this like weird
tension
thing
between it. Interesting.
It's like where the fans just like want theirs to be #1, and if their show isn't #1,
I mean, I think because as we both also obviously also feel like One Piece is like such a special story. I think, but I feel like you should never get protective about it, especially because I mean, I think again the reading. I'm not sure if you read the manga for Demon Slayer. It's okay. Like the story's okay, but like obviously the anime with the music and the visuals
elevates it so much.
And I think that anime overall, but also One Piece owe quite a lot to Demon Slayer because Demon Slayer was kind of the first show that really went and kind of took that, level of not quite obviously because that's movie quality, but Makoto Shinkai, like realistic, beautiful artwork.
Yes.
And putting that in like a, week to week serialized form. And you can see like 1 or 2 years later, even the One Piece anime was like, people were like, okay, the thing that we've been getting, the static PNG zooms, like that's not cutting it anymore nowadays.
Kind of funny though, considering like what is going on. Again, I'm coming at like a really good time. Like, there's a lot of news that's been happening.
We know, there has been.
But I feel like with the anime, right? So many people were talking about that news that now it's going seasonal, right? And that it's like still going to keep the one chapter per one episode pacing. And people are like, this is so different. It's everything we've asked for. And I'm like, it's literally the same as Egghead. The only difference is you're getting less episodes a year. Like it is seasonal, right? Like it's going on break from what, January to March or something.
I think they're gonna do 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months.
And that's great. Like I'm very happy about that. But I also feel like not much will change. And I think the fact that we have not heard,
well, it's more institutionalized, I guess, mostly. Yeah.
But like we haven't heard more about the Wit Studio One Piece, which we probably will at Jump Festa. I feel like that's still probably being developed.
I'm so nervous about this.
Really?
Because it is. Like, I've been saying this for probably ever since I started doing YouTube in 2018.
Yeah.
I wish, like, imagine if One Piece was actually produced in, like, every 2 years. You have this beautifully produced, well, like, good timing, good pacing.
Sure.
Right? Like, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen level animation. Now, there is a chance we might be getting it. But also, the concept art that we've been seeing was, like, very manga.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like. I'm not saying I don't like it. I just
not,
like imagine we got like a JJK level, or like what the Chainsaw Man movie looks like, or Demon Slayer level, beautiful, crisp, modern animation.
Sure.
It's like this one in like. Finally, they doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like so scared they're gonna mess it up.
See, I kind of feel like that with the movies too, right? Because everyone's been like, you know what they got to do? They got to do a God Valley movie. They got to do. And I feel like, and you and I kind of both know this. I feel like because we're actually intelligent One Piece fans. I feel like one. You are.
I will not.
I'm gonna speak for both of us.
I can't.
Didn't you have like the #1 most viewed theory video on YouTube? It's like, come on, give yourself a little credit. All right. But anyway, it's like with the One Piece films, right? We've had a lot of things that have been teased to be canon. We had like One Piece Film Red and all these other things, and you see the movie, and you're like, not really. This character gets made canon like one panel in the manga, but it's not actually fully canon. And I think that's a lot of the success of the Demon Slayer movies and Chainsaw Man as well, right? These are canon arcs being turned into films that could then be, transitioned into like seasons that can be spliced up.
I mean, this has always been a thing that I don't understand, and I don't know if this is the anime like Toei saying like, no, we just want to have enough material for our show, or if it's Oda saying I want to have some weird fun that we can't do.
I'll tell you right now, it's not. Knowing his like love of Hollywood and movies and like the live action, even there's no way.
I don't understand. Like One Piece literally has infinite opportunity. You can do like entire side plots that maybe don't necessarily actively, or you can animate the cover stories, right? You can do.
We've been saying that for years, but I think that adds to why I think we're never getting a canon movie of like a God Valley movie.
Yeah,
right? People are like, right now with what's going on in God Valley, this rock stuff would be great, but realistically, it's like
I feel like maybe if they're gonna do it now with this change in the anime schedule, might be the right time.
I mean, it'd be the right time to do it, but I think they would be scared to release a One Piece film that doesn't have Luffy in it, right? I think like that's been the thing with that's why they don't.
So?
I mean, that's why they don't animate the cover stories. They've outright said that multiple times.
Oh, have they said that? Because
that it was like they animated the cover stories.
At least turn it into filler then. I don't like also something I don't understand.
It's like instead of making a filler arc, you have this well of awesome information that you can pull from, and then they just don't pull from it.
So weird.
It's
I think God Valley might be strong enough potentially. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the one opportunity where I think they could do it, and I certainly wouldn't want them during like Final War to then go, all right, we're going to turn this into a movie, because at that point it's like you've made it this far.
Yeah, already too late. Exactly.
Like, who cares?
No, exactly. I'm actually kind of curious since we talked or you mentioned the live action very quickly, and you are, I think, out of all the creators most involved or directly.
Well, Randy is literally a writer on the show. It goes Randy way down here, and then me.
Well, I mean, I think Randy at this point I see almost more as a writer than a creator. So yeah. He's just part of the project directly, so that doesn't quite count.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts also, because you had the chance to talk to some of these people personally also. What is the actual end goal? Because to give you a bit of context, I was very surprised, not unpleasantly surprised, but surprised that the second season seems to be going not into Alabasta.
It's not.
Right?
I mean, it's not like they've
exactly. Yes, exactly. It's Drum Island, and then that's kind of like the finale, it seems, right? Which to me is insane in terms of pacing. Because if you think in terms of production, that does mean that there's just no way that this series is ever going to actually, at this pace, catch up with the manga. Because what's going to happen is...
Did you expect that?
Well, I thought maybe the project would be to if you have if let's say you actually took season 2 all the way to the end of Alabasta, and then season 3 maybe all the way to Sabaody, like you could kind of in like 4 or 5 years very quickly move through it. Is the goal just in general never to actually... Because the biggest thing that I only recently kind of realized is that the actors are obviously going to get a lot older.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are like already pushing 30s to go.
Exactly.
The fact if you eventually get a time skip
and
they're going to be like 40-year-old Luffy running around, like it's going to be a little weird. I feel like...
So did you ever talk about that with someone?
Not particularly in like a way that I could express publicly, but like I will say in the terms that I feel like safe to discuss would be that I don't think that has ever been the intention to get to the ending. Like I always think it's so weird to hear from people that they're like, I can't wait till they fan cast Kaido or like Big Mom. Like when they get to Wano, it's going to be crazy. I'm like, good luck, buddy. Like, you're never getting that. I think in a absolute best case scenario, we get to Marineford.
Okay.
I think that is the absolute best case, and that you get like 3D2Y, Straw Hat on the Rock, continue picking up where we left off in the manga for the rest of it, or like watch from this anime episode or something like that. Okay. That is absolute best
and
case.
Even that would already be like probably like 9-10 years or something.
Minimum, right? Because you could have Alabasta be a full 3rd season, which it probably will be.
Yeah, it needs
Skypiea.
Well, it needs if we're getting Drum Island technically almost being an entire season. Then
Skypiea would be a full season. I assume Water 7 Enies Lobby would be a full season, and the only one I could see them shrinking would honestly be Thriller Bark and condensing that with Summit War and making that one 6th season.
But then you still have Impel Down, you still have
but again, it's like a lot of that I think can be heavily condensed. Like say for example, you're introducing Crocodile and Bond.
I mean that is what I'm saying though. It can be heavily condensed, but the fact that Drum Island is a whole season with like the
Drum Island is only 3 episodes or 2 episodes.
Yes,
like,
but
it's not. Yeah,
I mean, from a writing perspective, if my goal as a writer was to actually, as you say, their goal is probably not catching up to the material. But if my goal had been that, I think I could find a way to squeeze Drum Island and like all the getting into the red line stuff into like 1 or 2 episodes.
This
if
is why
you
we
really
are
wanted
writers,
to,
though, because
probably.
I think us as fans want that, right? I think we want to see all this stuff.
Of course.
But I think like they know what is important and what makes One Piece good.
I'm just
sense is like
I was mostly saying because you said you can condense Thriller Bark.
Oh, of course.
And I was just saying you can condense everything.
Here's
to
what
a degree,
I mean.
Right?
It's like Thriller Bark has a lot of humor that is not necessarily integral to the plot. There's a lot of things that are like canon to the story. Whereas like Drum Island, for example, knowing what we know as manga readers. Walpole actually does kind of end up being a little important. You've got Chopper, right, who is the introduction of a full new Straw Hat crew member. Brooke, obviously, full introduction as well. But Thriller Bark, with 3 of them, I think they could condense to the length of a Drum Island.
I would disagree. Like now with Elbaph and Wano in retrospect and everything that we've gotten with Kozuki Moria and the Rocks Pirates being zombies partly.
We would never get to the Rocks ever. I mean, that's literally like, that is never in a million years ever going to happen with live action. Right. So I think like that would not be a priority.
So you don't think it's important to show that stuff?
No, I think their focus would be like building up the main Straw Hats and showing their character development prior to that point. And like the external world building of like stuff that's going to happen later on, they wouldn't necessarily need to focus on as much other than like Easter eggs. Whereas like full story arcs, right? Like Enies Lobby, obviously critically important to Robin, right? Like Water 7, Frankie, same exact thing. Thriller Bark, Brooke, like again, those could be like 3 to 4 mini episode kind of arcs that then could be not necessarily like condensed from story development, but like character development, but like from overall story to development. Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I'm just saying that with that reasoning, I would have probably expected Drum Island to be a lot shorter too. I think is what I mean.
I will say again, I can't talk.
Would you like, by the way, since it's the namesake of the...
Absolutely. Thank you. Here we're going to do a little kampai at the end. There we go.
I actually do have the Sakazuki cups too.
Oh, no shot, really?
But they are immensely.
Hey, they're like the Shanks one. Awesome. This is the giant one.
This is the bottle that Shanks actually is drinking in the manga.
I didn't even notice that. That's so cute. Well, kampai, my friend.
Cheers, man.
Absolutely.
Sorry, what were you gonna say? Before I rudely interrupted you.
No, you didn't rudely interrupt. It was fine. What I was gonna say is that obviously, again, I can't talk about like the things that I know, but what I can say safely is I think like what they're doing with Drum Island, people are really going to enjoy, and I think making it like the climax of the 2nd season and building to what they're building to, I think is like really smart when you look at what is sort of coming in season 3 and what they're potentially looking to like end on. Because right now we got the announcement of the new Ace actor, right? That, in my opinion, is probably going to be like end credit. Well, it was kind of fan casting.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, it was really cool. We got It was kind of cool when we got it. Yeah.
But no, I was going to say that I feel like specifically with the live action and with that ending like 3 or so episodes, I feel like the Drum Island stuff could be a great closer, and then you get like maybe an end credit teaser, and it's like, here's Ace. Leading up to Alabasta the same way that Smoker was the teaser for season 1. Whereas like season 3, I could very much see that happening where like you go through all of Alabasta, you have the scene with Robin on the boat, probably closing out the season with like Usopp, the, what's your specialty, assassination, that whole sequence. And then they make their way off to Skypiea, and maybe like the end credit for that being the ship falling from the sky. Right. And then again, I feel like 4 seasons is probably what like their goal is.
Right now, in general? Okay.
I think they probably want to get to Skypiea, mostly because of the fact that that is a really good jumping off point if they ever wanted to be like doing sort of like an early tease of Gear 5. They teased Garp obviously way earlier. I feel like they could do something.
Well, it sounds
with the
like Ace is going to be in season 2 if they have a You don't think so? You think it's
'cause
just season 3 casting?
His casting announcement specifically said season 3 Ace.
Okay.
So I think it is going to be like an end credit teaser if it's going to happen.
I think so too. I feel like they're going to throw it in properly because otherwise, why already put him out there, right?
I think again to get people excited because they know that like Ace is such a huge character, and again I think we know that it's not going to hit Alabasta, and like people following it know, but I think there are like more casual fans who maybe aren't paying attention to the news who are like, we got an Ace fan cast, excited to see this or whatever, and then all of a sudden like they don't actually get to Alabasta, so we'll see.
Okay, I mean I'm very excited obviously, and I think for me the second season is going to be like a real test. I think even more so maybe than the first season, because I went into the first season fairly skeptical as someone who holds the story very close to heart, and having watched a lot of insanely butchered anime adaptations of live action stuff, I was very positively surprised. But obviously, as with many good shows that have strong first seasons, actually delivering on that again in the second one is almost harder than the first one, right? So I'm very curious, and obviously things just get more difficult to animate and to,
which is the reason why I don't think we're getting past time skip. I feel like there are tricks they can do with Thriller Bark. There are things they could do with like Skypiea. But I think once you start getting into like post time skip with like Whole Cake and the Homies stuff, and like Wano Country and the scale of everything, I think that's when it like your budget's going to be way overblown. You know?
And I'm already fairly curious how, I think Logia Fruits was for me always one of the most almost impossible seeming ones, because obviously you can do incredibly good particle effects now in Hollywood, but like that actually making it look decent is going to be a bit of a challenge, so I'm very curious.
I'm excited to see Smoker. I'm assuming that's going to be like first or second episode.
It must be. It should be,
I cannot wait.
Dragon.
Dragon.
Very excited.
I'm wondering if they are going to cast someone. I almost feel like you're going to get the lightning,
a little reveal,
like a shadow of the face,
and you're like, oh,
and you're gonna be like, it's Dragon, oh my god. But those of us who know will know. But I don't think they're gonna like outright.
Oh, you don't think they're gonna have someone badass?
I don't, because we're not really getting to anything Dragon at all in what I presume is going to be the lifetime
even in the manga.
Literally,
it feels like
now,
there's some stuff.
There's some good stuff going on in the manga right now.
Okay, I don't want to jump too much, but just like with the God Valley flashback. I think like Dragon might be genuinely the only actually good-hearted character in the entire show. He's
absolutely
like the sweetest guy.
I feel like JD Legend is going to be happy to hear this. I feel like the Dragon stocks are rising right now. Mogimara, man,
he's just I mean, regardless of the powers and whatnot, he's just like, he's a lot more. He has actually like stronger main character vibes than even like Luffy is a lot more like Garp in a lot of ways, right? Like good-hearted. Well, in some ways, right? So, but like they're both more the like, we're doing the right thing, but like kind of like with rough edges around it, and we're not trying. But I mean, in the flashback, he's just like willing to sacrifice his life for innocent people, which is like insanely sick. Good to see.
Do you think he knows Shanks is?
That is what I'm curious,
baby,
right?
because as of the most recent chapters, the one we're recording, right? You see the little thing where somebody, like, you see the noise coming out of the treasure chest or something, right? And so we know that Roger's going to find the baby,
from film.
But Dragon straight up is like, I couldn't even save 2 kids. And you have the baby Shamrock getting taken by one of the Celestial Dragons, not the God Knights, excuse me. So many people going.
Well, they are Celestial Dragons,
but they're also the God Knights, right? One of them's getting taken away. Shanks is getting taken away.
My personal hope when we got this entire sequence with a dragon, running away with Shamrock and Shanks, I was kind of hoping, like, are like Dragon and Shanks actually like secretly in cahoots or something? Or it would have also been interesting that, maybe the same with Shamrock, that maybe Shamrock, same as Shanks, wasn't always in the Holy Land, and he actually grew up with Dragon, or like that would have been really fun too.
Awesome.
Now it looks like that seems to not be the case, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, why introduce it otherwise if it's not going to play a role potentially? It doesn't have to, obviously.
No, I do think it will, though. I think you and I both know, like, Oda is very particular about things that he includes at certain times.
Exactly.
And why he's introducing things at those times. So we'll talk about it more.
I have a very big confession to make.
Let's hear it. Okay.
Did you ever realize that Dragon doesn't have eyebrows?
I did not. No, I actually did not. Yeah.
It hit me because I was working on a thumbnail for a video, and I was like, this looks. I used a Blue Lock shot for reference for the thumbnail.
Okay, interesting.
And have you know
I know
about Blue Lock? Yeah. And I was like, why does the art look a little bit different that my artist made? And I was like, oh, like Dragon's eyebrows are missing. And I was like, wait.
He never just had them.
And I was like, I looked at the image. And I was like, Dragon does not have eyebrows.
I'm thinking about it now with the young dragon that we're seeing. Yeah, you're right. He still doesn't have eyebrows.
Does the young guy have eyebrows?
No, he doesn't.
Does he also not have eyebrows?
I think you said that, and then it was like processing in my head, and I'm thinking back to like reactions on stream, and I was like, wait, no, I think I even mentioned at one point when we first see him, like, why does he look kind of weird? It's because he doesn't have them. That's so bizarre.
And I'm like, because we know at this point he doesn't have the face tattoo yet.
No.
But he does have the mark. So he probably had like whatever that is.
Arm, isn't it?
Whatever he has that from, like whatever culture, whether it's like Shandora or whatever, right, or like something else. Like there must be something about Dragon specifically that seems like almost like it seems tribal almost, right, in a lot of ways.
Do you think that's potentially a connection to the Kujas, right? Because like now that we have all this stuff with Shakuyaku, we already got introduced to Tritoma. Tritoma's age is like exactly right to be Luffy's mom. I feel like he never wanted to go out of his way to like reveal Luffy's mother, but now that we know how Kuma works and like sending people to places that make sense, it's like, why would he send Luffy to Amazon Lily of all the places? It's like, well, if his mother is from there and he would know because he's in the Revolutionary Army, like.
I do think there's also an argument to be made that potentially his entire thing with Boa is also, because it's very, what I found weird, and that's what I love so much about One Piece recently, is that I love stories where everything seems to be kind of weird and just take the quirk until suddenly, no,
connects.
Everything has an explanation.
Like, I mean, literally, this thing with rocks that blew my mind. So many people were excited about that chapter with like Kaido and Big Mom like attacking rocks, that big group thing. And I'm like, I don't care about any of this. I care about the fact that Captain John, his kids,
exactly.
This is so cool. Like what? And then when you see in the most recent chapter, he's like slumping away and he's got the blood dripping down his face, and you're like, oh my god, that's exactly how a zombie looked way back when. And then you see the mountain crack, right? When Rocks and Whitebeard fight, and you're like, wait a minute, it's only one mountain now. Like, could this be Thriller Bark? Is that what this has become? Amazing. Like, it's cool.
It's all these things. And so I think like taking that concept to the Boa Hancock thing, where like at first it was kind of like it seemed like a joke by Oda that Boa is in love with Luffy and now her clone is in love with Luffy.
Yeah.
But I'm almost like, is there like some DNA shenanigans there? Where almost like I personally have been really into the idea that potentially like Shaki is a lot bigger, a piece of foreshadowing. Potentially that we have the entire Romance Dawn concept for One Piece, right? So like, and we have the weird, like kind of creepy obsession with Lily, with Imu. So is like romance a much bigger factor in these wars originally, potentially? Yeah. And so I think I like the Tritoma idea. Yeah. I'm like in general kind of the Luffy's mom's theory guy. So I have like I think 8 videos on 8 different people who might be
the old days back with like Bello Betty's introduction.
Hell yeah.
Like, this is it, man. She's got the sunglasses. It's gonna be her, you know.
So
it's just so funny.
So I like the Tritoma idea, but I also like the idea that potentially there's like something going on. I think the Kuja tribe in general, very clearly, is a lot more important, right?
For sure.
I think the entire thing with obviously, you know, Amazon Lily most likely being connected to Lily herself, and then you know the question is, did Lily fall in love with who? Like you have the entire thing with the snakes and the Kuja, and then you have Cobra, right, and then the Hellflame Serpent. And I've always I'm not sure if you like this idea or not. I've always liked the idea that Imu is either the Earth God themselves or just connected to the Earth God in some way.
I agree, but I also fully believe, like, just on a more basic level, that Imu is like the devil. I really do think like he is the devil, right? In the sense that like we have devil fruits. Things are obviously, you see all the stuff going on right now with like Saturn and the Gorosei, and their weird regeneration powers, the stuff with the abyss, like everything. It does seem to be like very devilish in the sense of like he's possessing other people and doing like the Domi reverses. And like I also totally think that can be the Earth God.
Oh, it can. Absolutely.
Like, I think it's literally both, because with I don't know if you've like talked about this or like gone into this at all, but I feel like with the Domi reversi, it seems obvious to me that like they're leading up to Luffy essentially having his own version of it, right? That like you've got the black pieces that Luffy is then swapping the pieces over to like reverse it, which is why it's so threatening to Imu.
I love that idea.
The Nika fruit.
Actually, I never looked at it. I never looked at it from the strict like game perspective, which is really fun though. But I mean, obviously the idea that like what I always found interesting was that you sometimes have the Hageromo thing, like the steam coat, like some are black, some are white.
Well, also Luffy, to his character, the core of his character from very early days of One Piece, right, is he makes allies with everyone. I mean, even prior to
and freeing people from darkness and stuff. Also, one thing that I personally find very interesting, as you know, all the straw, we're jumping. Do I have like 8 million thoughts?
It's been 2 years since we had a chance to see each other.
This is just
also there has not been a reverie recently.
Very true. We should.
There's too many people now. It's but it's like
maybe we can maybe set one up again sometimes. We'll see. We'll see. The IRL one. That would be super fun.
We were actually talking about a little bit about Inside Baseball. We were talking about doing that last Anime Expo because we had basically like a reverie dinner that was at Yamashiro in LA, and we were all sort of talking and like at a table and being like, if we had microphones,
maybe next year,
literally be a reverie. So
maybe we can pitch it to AX. Maybe we can pitch it to AX.
Literally, yeah. IRL reverie at AX.
Maybe you can host it. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I wanted to say is, as you know, dude, I'm so happy to jump around. I'm as you can see, I'm getting fired up here too.
Like, the air conditioner, like I said, man.
Dude, I know. It's what I love about hanging out with Roger. It's always like getting super fired up about everything.
Exactly.
As you know, like all the Straw Hats have this, demonic like touch to them, right? Like Luffy has the Sun Wukong thing, and then you have Ashura with Zoro and Ifrit.
Whatever's going on with that.
Ifrit thing with Sanji. You have like the crazy snow monster with Chopper, right? Like Robin being the devil in like multiple ways, quite literally also. So all of them have it. Like this is just me wanting things, but like in that, as you say, like, okay, one option is that Luffy just takes pieces like in the game that Imu has transformed and transforms it back to the good. What I also thought could be fun is like, okay, and there's like obviously 8 trillion different ways, like theories. Is Luffy the sun god? Like are Luffy and Blackbeard the 2 pieces? Are Luffy and Imu the 2 pieces? Like whatever. But one fun thing could be with the white, Cloud Hagoromo thing and the black ones. I thought it could be really fun. Like, does Luffy get his own version, like the opposite power of the, like, are there some devil fruits done by one god, some devil fruits by the other god? And could it just be that maybe Luffy gets his own Domi Reversi, like a good Domi Reversi?
Like a reversi.
Sorry. I thought you were saying that he takes Dorian Broggy and like transforms them back or something.
Well, he will. But I think it's even more than that, right? I think
that he has his own ability of it. Yeah.
Where it's like, look at Egghead Island, even, right? With like Bonnie, and then all the stuff with Bonnie being able to like the future in which she's Nika. Like, I think on one hand that's really cool with her devil fruit power, but I also think like Oda is a little more like careful with things that he does like that, and where it does seem almost sloppy in the way that she's able to do that. And it's like, I think that's for a greater reason. I think there is something else that activated that we don't know yet.
I mean, just like all the crazy like King of Hell and Ifrit, and then like Usopp obviously being bait, like getting an actual like Tengo Usopp with like the white Hagoromo thing would be like insane, obviously.
I do wonder, you brought up the Emu and Blackbeard thing, and again, we're jumping around a lot, but I feel like with the way the story is laid out now, I don't know if you feel like this, but I personally like don't have nearly as much interest in theories nowadays as I used to like 3 years ago. Like, we were even talking before about like,
I think there's like I
think now it almost feels like, I figured it out. It almost feels like, because we've been doing this for so long, and I'm sure you kind of feel like this slightly, in a sense, in like, oh no, I see where these pieces are going. Because like right now we've got Elbaph, right? We're gonna have Final War, and there's gonna be Laugh Tale. We know that. He's outright said Laugh Tale is going to be when the story ends, which means Final War has to happen beforehand. If that's the case, and you have this whole debate from people being like, well, Imu's the final villain, it's like, are you reading the same series? Because literally right now in the God Valley flashback, all the stuff that's being set up with the Davy clan and with Teach and everything that we know about Blackbeard showing up at Marineford, right? Being this vulture, taking Whitebeard's devil fruit power.
Do you think Blackbeard's the final villain?
Of course. Blackbeard, I really think
so fascinating.
For Luffy and Blackbeard teaming up against Emu.
Yes.
They got to prepare for that.
The only question is in what order, because I think it's undoubtedly like the case. My version, I was for the longest time a big fan of the idea that Emu was actually going to be like, first Emu and then Blackbeard. Now, though, I'm actually kind of like, okay, Blackbeard is kind of doing his own thing also, just in like a twisted Luffy way, right?
Exactly.
So now I'm almost leaning towards Luffy fighting Blackbeard on Laugh Tale. Like, we're gonna get this One Piece arc,
100%,
right? The fight for the One Piece,
exactly.
But then I do almost, and I've actually talked about this like I think like 4 years ago in a video, and people hated it. I was like, hey, there's a good chance we might get the Naruto Sasuke treatment.
Oh, with the two of them.
Where they're just going to have to,
I mean, I really do think that is a potential. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
I think people hate it, but I think with even the way this flashback has set up Rocks, the way we've heard about Rocks is like such a villain, and then you see what's happening.
I think the fact that we're getting so much humanization now for Blackbeard is
I completely agree. I feel like that is where people need to prepare that things are going, and I almost see
I'm
a
excited.
situation of like, obviously. There's so many things that like other pirate stories that Oda pulls from for One Piece. I think like Blackbeard, if he's the equivalent of like the Long John Silver character, if we're going like on a very basic level Treasure Island, right? That if there is a point in which obviously Luffy fights Blackbeard with like Imu's powers, right? That he steals the power that he thinks is his own from after finding out the truth about his father and all this other stuff during Final War, right? Yeah. If we get that, and Blackbeard comes to the realization at the end of the fight with Luffy that like he went about things the wrong way and is almost like apologetic in it in a sense, but like almost goes down with the ship, right? We still haven't had a character drown yet. There's something going on with Laugh Tale. We don't know where it is. Well, I think I agree with you where it is, but that's a whole other topic. But like, I still feel like that setup and that arc for Blackbeard is absolutely something we're seeing. And that like the stuff with Will of D and Davy Jones and the D clan and like what that
weird
means.
that it's very funny because it kind of felt at a certain point in the recent chapters, it felt like, oh, the Will of D sounds like it's just the Will of Davy, but now Davy Jones is a D member himself. So and that ties into what you said earlier. I actually have the opposite feeling that I'm more excited to make. They're not hitting as hard because I think people are a little bit tired, which I understand. But me personally, my theory brain is just more on fire than ever before.
Really?
Because for me, the fact, yes, we have I think a lot of pieces that people used to theorize about, like the big stuff, are now falling into place.
Yeah, right.
But I've just been getting so excited. Like the fact that Oda gave us a whole pre-history of like the fact that there's the Void Century and we like now get some hints, and the fact that that's already that world is already a post-apocalyptic world, and there's like we know nothing, like fuck about nothing about the first world, and I would be so sad if that wasn't a big part of everything, because I think
don't you think that's Final War? I feel like the equivalent of like what we're getting God Valley now is probably going to be the Emu Joy Boy flashback. I'm certain.
But that would be second world, right? The Emu Joy Boy one.
Technically, it could be first, right? Like if the character, because we still don't know what's going on with Davy, and the whole thing with him walking into Emu's room with Rocks, saying like, I'm going to be back. Don't you worry. Like that's clear setup for Blackbeard eventually Final War walking.
But we do already know, at least the way that I understand the timeline is, right? Like we know Joy Boy fought Emu and the 20 Kings, right at the end, like during the Void Century, 800 years ago.
Correct.
And from what it feels like with also like the sea calendar and the heavenly calendar, it feels like and we know like Arubana, for example, or the O'Hara are like 4,000 or 5,000 years old, right?
Sure.
So we do know that like the first world probably goes way back.
Sure.
So I kind of like the way I at least hope it's going to play out is that we have this again, I personally have this very strong, and I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, right?
Yeah, oh great.
Are you familiar?
I love Lord of the Rings, yeah.
So like it's probably the only story I'm maybe even slightly more knowledgeable about than One Piece, right? I have had this very like gut feeling that Oda is pulling a lot of inspiration from Lord of the Rings, like the entire like first, second age, first, second, third age, leading into the fourth age, and kind of the second age was where like all the actual relevant stuff happened. Like in Lord of the Rings is like you have Sauron and how the rings were forged. That's all second age, Joy Boy, Ancient Kingdom stuff. While the first age is this. Like, how was this world even created, and who are these like godly? And there's like this war on like a whole different divine scale.
Don't you think that will be like part of the Emu backstory, though? Is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we'll get a dedicated first world flashback. But what I'm saying is, I think when we get the Emu flashback during Final War, I feel like that is going to give you the answer that you're looking for. I don't think it's going to be fleshed out.
I think it depends, because I think there's a good chance, obviously, that Emu is even older than.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I think I would agree with that if it wasn't for the weird fact that Emu has a family name and everything.
Right. But don't you think that could be like a reverse will type deal? Right.
It could be.
You've got the will of D, but it's like the will of his family as well. And
I mean, I do agree.
We don't know what the hell is.
If I had to bet, I would also assume that Emu dates back to the first world. But I think there's still a chance that maybe they inherited, like they had like an ancestor or something, or took, because we do know that like it was in the second world that like, human men became gods and whatnot. So I think there's a whole thing, which is obviously the entire Prometheus and whatnot, right? Yeah. You know the deal. So I think for me, like Oda has opened up this whole other can of worms
Yeah.
in terms of everything, because it almost feels. Have you read The Wheel of Time? I bring this up every podcast. Okay, so there's like idea that the first world almost looks like it's kind of in a way modeled after our world to a certain degree, like actual like industry. Polluting the planet is what we see in the mural. And then the second,
have the ancient technology, right?
Exactly.
This is the thing they've been building up for forever. Right?
Exactly.
The old world was so much more technologically advanced.
Though it at least it seems like there are also levels between the first world and the second world, right? Because the second world is already also very technologically advanced.
Sure.
But you have like this
the factories with like the which I thought was one of the coolest part of the mural.
Do you? Okay, I have two questions for you regarding the mural and the Harley.
Throw them at me.
Do you think that devil fruits existed in the first world, or because it kind of reads like they only actually were created in the second world, right?
I agree. Yes.
Okay, you would see that. Yes. And the second thing is, do you feel like Nika, a sun god, a forest god, earth god, do you think those are actual like
deities
people, deities, or do you okay?
Yes, I do, because the whole thing is that like the way the devil fruits, the way we kind of understand them now, right, is come from the dreams of other people.
Yes,
that I think there were the original deities, right, and that by the time of the second world, those deities basically became myth, and everybody understood. Like they know who the characters are, right? They know what their powers were, but it's like a weird, vague, kind of twisted idea.
Yeah,
which is I think
which is why the Nika
with Loki.
Yes,
right, with like the two sun god fruits, where he clearly doesn't have like a Nika fruit, unless it's like an alternate, the same way that you have multiple different religions that have the same characters.
I had that idea, funnily enough, recently about Blackbeard and Luffy, because like the question is, did Blackbeard actually look for the Nika fruit as like a thing that people have obviously been asking?
Don't you think
they look very similar?
I mean, the two fruits that Rox is looking after. Yeah. Don't you think that was the Nika fruit?
Very good chance,
the Yami Yami.
Very good chance.
Like those had to be the two.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I looked into this also recently, like actually rereading the Ace versus Blackbeard fight in Japanese.
Yes.
And Blackbeard, like specifically, I think in the English translation, in the official, it says, it also has the power to attract the powers or like absorb the powers of the devil fruits. But that's not what the actual Japanese says.
Is it like absorb the power of demons
of the devil?
And which wow,
also
Roger was right. Like literally 5 minutes ago, we were just talking about this. The whole Imu thing, right? Again, the team up, the eventual team up with Luffy and Blackbeard, right? Where that he will work with Luffy, hold down Imu, stop the regeneration, stop whatever the devil fruit powers are, and the devil in general, like the devil powers. Luffy and him fight, and then that leads to a situation where Luffy maybe thinks, because he's very trustworthy, he's like, oh, we're maybe on the same side now. Let's go chase the One Piece. And Blackbeard's like, no.
But not only that,
and then
like when you think about like what is like the iconic, like the two iconic moves that Blackbeard uses in that fight are liberation.
Yes, exactly.
But
which
also
is so interesting now that we know this.
Black hole.
Yes.
And like, what is a black hole if not a collapsed star?
Exactly.
Like the sun, right?
Yes. And you even bring up the liberation thing. I think is so good because it ties to a lot of what I think is happening, and we're seeing the setup for in God Valley right now, right? Which is that Teach, with the little bit of the humanization that he's getting now, I almost see a world in which like you're going to get the conflict of the person who is the blood relative of Davy, right? Versus the person who is carrying on Davy's will. And which one is actually stronger, the will of the individual or like the bloodline? And we've seen this so much with the genetic stuff with like Vinsmokes and all the stuff with the celestial dragons.
Lineage factors.
Right, the lineage factor. That they're like all this stuff with like blood and how important that is to the people that are kind of on the wrong side of history. Whereas like the Straw Hat Crew is found family, right? You've got like all these other characters that are inheriting the will of other characters that aren't necessarily related. Like that seems to be more important, and that seems to be the thing that like will propel the world forward. It's not necessarily who you're related to. It's like how you go about like carrying on their will, you know?
I mean, I agree that it's so fun. I do feel like it's very interesting that, like seeing Oda actually distinguish Davy, because I also was very much on the boat that Davy Jones is Joy Boy.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I thought that was, and now I'm not so sure.
Well, it seems that the Japanese says like, oh, like actually like,
it compares
this or this. Who did you fear more? And I'm like, this is two people very clearly.
Did you think that was the case though of two separate individuals?
Yes, that's very much like the Japanese reads.
It was very clear.
It feels like I would say 90%.
The way that like someone would say, which name do you prefer? Do you prefer being Ohara or do you prefer?
Yes,
being
it was
Manu,
that's not like because the way it was phrased, it was literally like person A, person B.
Okay,
who do you fear more?
Interesting.
And even though I really like the idea of Joy Boy having these different titles, I think the fact that we now have two characters who are important is like so much fucking
So
fun.
good. Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
And I even wondered if I did a video about that that's actually coming out tonight. But
nice.
it's already
It'll
going to be out
by the time you guys watch this.
You guys
Yeah,
watch
yeah, yeah.
this. Where and this is kind of speculative, but I thought the idea was really fun. Is okay. I kind of got to this by thinking, okay, obviously, we have the sun god, we have these 4 gods. Is there an argument to be made that the 4 wanted posters that Imu actually holds in their first introduction
I like where this is going already.
are these the 4 lineages of the 4 gods? And at first I was like, okay, Poseidon is an ancient weapon. Does that really make sense? But when you really think about it, there is a lot there like that actually speaks to the idea that it would be Luffy, so
Right.
the monkey family, which
Right.
we already know must be special in some way. Because
course.
look at Garp and
Yeah.
Dragon. Do you think Kong is a monkey family member?
I don't, but I also think
Okay.
there's a whole big thing to
All right.
discuss with Garp that like I could talk
Yes.
about
yeah,
now,
we can,
but I
we
want to
can,
table
we can
that.
get into
Yeah,
Garp
yeah,
too,
yeah.
but they're crazy.
Yes,
like we
they
know
are, yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
all 3 of them,
Yeah.
right? So I think thinking that potentially Luffy quite literally is a descendant of Joy Boy or like the Nika,
Yeah.
like all these different D families are actually tied to different
Sure,
special
the
people.
original deities potentially, yeah.
Then Blackbeard with Davy, obviously.
Yep.
Well, that could obviously make sense with a god too,
Yep.
being related to a deity. Like it could just be that Davy Jones is a similar scenario, like like Joy Boy ate the Nika fruit, and
Right.
like where maybe like Davy Jones ate a different god's fruit,
Sure.
right? And then you'd have Poseidon, who would obviously make sense as the sea god.
Of course,
right?
naturally.
And would leave Vivi, which would kind of really explain a lot about the whole Vivi thing. And then
Yep.
you have like the Earth God thing again,
Yep.
right? And all the snake stuff and the
Yep.
Hellflame serpent,
Yep,
and
yep.
whatnot. So I don't know. Okay.
But see, this goes back to our discussion earlier, right? Is that it feels like more so now than literally any other point in which I have been making content, and probably for you as well, that things are clearly falling into place in a way that like it is super fun to talk about this and theorize, right? But to somebody who has been following this and making content on
Yes.
this for a decade, it is like there is a clear difference between like when we were speculating that Bellamy was a Vinsmoke years ago because he didn't have eyebrows, right? And then he could have shaved them off and he's from the same blue.
But do you
versus
not-
like where we are
Yes.
now.
But do you not feel like even though we're getting like more of a direction, I feel like for me, like the mural, it answered like 8 questions.
Of course,
and
but it
gave
gave
me
us
like
100
50
more.
new.
I agree. But that is not necessarily a desire to then like ingest theories. It becomes for me this thing where it's like, oh, we're so close to the end now. Like I'm very curious to see how the pieces fall into place, which is why God Valley I think has been so good. Where you're getting like again stuff like
Payoff
the Captain
stuff.
John reveal,
Yeah.
or like even all the stuff going on with like Kaido and Big Mom,
Okay,
and like all
interesting.
those connections.
I kind of like that though. I
Yeah.
think that speaks to our little like our personalities
Yeah,
too.
it
Because
totally is.
I'm just
Yeah.
like lore for me
Exactly.
is like the thing.
And for me,
I
it's character
love-
development.
Yeah.
I'm like more than that's the thing that's kept me going in the story.
Yeah.
People joke about it where it's like, oh, Roger's only excited about fights. It's like you clearly don't watch my content if you think that's the case. When like
think-
the things that I freak out about are literally character.
I
growth.
think I feel like there's probably no content creator that I know at least who thinks that One Piece is goated because of the fights. I think One Piece has good fights.
It does have good
but
fights,
I think
yeah.
in the big spectrum of anime nowadays, it's like average. I think
Yes.
the things that make One Piece insane is the world building, is the characters,
Yes.
is the lore, right?
Yeah,
And then
and fights
yeah.
can be good.
No, they are.
Right?
There's
Yeah.
awesome fights, but,
But I will admit
you-
that there
yeah.
don't you, and you could be honest, right? But like, don't you think there is also a little thing going on right now, really with all this stuff with regeneration powers, where it's like the fights are really now a means to an end now. It's no longer like fun to like again, it is fun to speculate. It's fun to like scale, but at the same time, it is very clearly like, oh, there's going to be something that negates the regeneration power. They're going to clear this. We go to Final War, and this is where everything kind of falls into place. Like even the fights in Final War, even the fights in Laugh Tale, like I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to do this, if I may. I have to go on this tangent. You've heard this before, but I'm going to do it again. All right? I do feel like very strongly, even with how we've talked about the series, Luffy and Blackbeard take down Imu, right? That ends up being Final War. Luffy is like, this is great. Like, we're now on the same side. Blackbeard.
Do you think this happens before or after Laugh Tale?
I think this happens before Laugh Tale.
Interesting,
Yes.
okay.
I think all the stuff with Final War, the downfall of the Goro State.
I think it's going to be the other way around.
No, here's why. Because I think what's going to happen is Blackbeard goes about it the wrong way, right? Takes Imu's power for himself, thinks that is the way that he needs to avenge his family. Luffy's like, that is not the case. Shanks comes in to defend him. Blackbeard kills Shanks, right? Shanks, not necessarily, right, gonna enter one-on-one fight with Blackbeard, but I absolutely see a situation in which Luffy never gives the hat back, right? Yeah. That's so important to the story, him giving the hat back, like whole thing. And I feel like thematically that just can't happen. And knowing what we know now with Shanks and Buggy, I do feel like him sort of having his brother and his mentee be the ones to go discover Laugh Tale allows for two things that you also know. I know you know this. Oda loves goofy fights. He loves it. He's always said, I want goofy, zany things at the end of my story. What better way to do that than when they arrive at Laugh Tale, the first two who pull up on shore are Luffy and Buggy. And we get a full-on Looney Tunes Luffy just obliterating Buggy like da 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 da.
I would actually go the other way. I would say I would probably bet some money that Buggy is gonna become Pirate King before Luffy.
No, wait. I agree with you. I agree with you, but hear this out. I totally agree with you. What I think is gonna happen, genuinely, and I've said this on multiple videos before, I think Luffy and Buggy have their Looney Tunes fight. I literally think we get a Team Rocket blasting off again moment where he throws Buggy all the way out of there. Buggy lands in front of the One Piece. Doesn't give a shit about what it is because it's not what he wants it to be, which is treasure.
Gold, yeah.
And then who's flying up in the sky right now, watching over all this after what happened with Final War? Big News Morgans, who's been so important in the story at this point with the buildup of Luffy, reporting that Buggy has become the Pirate King. The world,
it's going to happen,
outside,
absolutely.
I agree completely, right? Where does that leave the crew at that point, right? If we have Luffy versus Buggy as like a joke type deal where he gets the Looney Tunes stuff out of the way, right? Who are the wings of Buggy? Who are the wings of the Pirate King of Buggy?
Mihawk and Crocodile.
Mihawk, obviously final fight for Zoro. Guaranteed.
Oh, really?
Mihawk, obviously final fight for Zoro. Crocodile, clearly final fight for Sanji. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you look at the themes of the story that we've gotten with both of those characters, first off, Crocodile and Sanji are the only two, right, that Ivankov has worked directly with and shared information to Luffy. Ivankov knows the Croco Boy secret, whatever that is, right? Ivankov is the one who trained Sanji.
Crocodile is Tritomo, my friend.
I don't think Crocodile's. I mean, that would be great. That would be awesome. If that's the case, like that would be great. I love it. But regardless, like there's a secret going on there, right? The first person to ever talk to Crocodile within the story from the Straw Hats was Sanji, Mr. Prince. Crocodile wants power, wants royalty, right? Goes for all these like vain type of things, right? What does Sanji want? Nothing more than to get rid of his royalty. Wants nothing to do with this, right? Sanji's whole thing, feast versus famine. You've got Crocodile, right? Like taking the water out of Alabasta, making it where people can't grow their crops. Sanji wanting nothing more than to feed people. And how in every piece of media everywhere where there is a character that has sand powers, how do they beat the sand powers usually?
With water.
No, wrong. Sometimes they do. We had that with Luffy, but wrong. If you look even at something like Spider-Man 3, right? With like Sandman, hot fire turning the sand into glass. Right. So that right there, like with what we know with Sanji and like heating up and the stuff with Ifrit, like I think it is set up perfectly to have Crocodile be the final fight for Sanji, which then, and I see we're running low on time before we get to our next break, so I want to bring this up real quick. What I was going to say is that you then have Sanji and Zoro off doing their own things. We get both of those fights happening intermittently. Luffy about to go for the One Piece. Who pulls up? Blackbeard, having just taken down Shanks with his crew. Who do we see with Blackbeard the first time? Burgess is a grappler. Who does he work with? Frankie. You know what I mean? Like Lafitte, all the stuff that we have with Lafitte going on.
I mean,
with the wings, you've got Robin, right? The tie to the world government. Like there is so, Doc Q and Chopper, right? Like there are so many characters that I think will last from the Blackbeard crew. I think a lot of the new recruits from like Impel Down will probably end up like falling by the wayside in Final War. I think Shiyu's going to be like a little bit of a fake out as well. But I do feel like when you get to the core of Laugh Tale and you get to those actual final fights, it is ultimately going to culminate with Luffy and Blackbeard before you get to the One Piece.
I love that. I mean, I think I agree with a lot of stuff. I do kind of like that Oda has thrown a lot of wild cards into that.
Yeah. Speaking of wild cards, you were talking about this, characters that might show up in Final War that we're not really sure where they're going to fit in. I am curious, do you think there will be an Impel Down 2.0 kind of breakout with the cross guild?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, it kind of feels very on the nose that some of, like, or many of the warlords, like Doflamingo belongs in cross guild, right?
100%.
We want Bon Clay back.
Bon Clay.
I know I'm not alone with this. Yeah. But I have this weird love for Magellan as a character.
I love Magellan.
He's so great. Yeah. He's such a great guy. Do you think it's like that he's been Domi reversed at all, or do you think that's just a regular? Like,
I like the idea, like with the wings. No, I think he is just kind of like a dude that is trying his best. I mean, to be fair,
he's kind of a fun character, honestly.
Fun.
Yeah.
I almost feel
very
the same
broken
way about Hannibal. right? Where like Hannibal has that whole speech at the end of Impel Down, right? Where he's like, no, you pirates are the ones that are destroying the world, whatever. But he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know what these pirates are doing. He doesn't know Luffy is freeing Alabasta and doing all this other stuff. And so I feel like, I don't know, I think Magellan and Hannibal in particular, like the way that Impel Down was set up, made for interesting
Speaking
characters.
of Impel Down, just because I literally recorded this also today.
Oh, let's go. Okay.
As a theory person, I'm gonna throw you all my stuff, and then we'll see if you approve or not.
Okay.
I've recently looked again at the shot of Impel Down in the manga, which very clearly, like, it's we know the sea levels rose 200 meters. That seems to be like fairly accurate, right? For what, like, very clearly this was like an on land structure at some point. It looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously, it looks like this imposing tower. Do you think it's like, it must be from the first or second world?
110%,
right?
yes.
It almost has this, I kind of like go a little bit into this like Tower of Babel kind of like thing, where like the humans trying to get close to the sun and whatnot. It's also very interesting that very clearly something is in this, and it's not, I always for some reason thought that it was like this giant whirlpool that's like between the Gate of Justice. But when you actually like, we never get a shot of what's actually in the middle, so we actually have no fucking clue.
No.
If there's like some towers or something that like are coming out of, like, we've never seen that big current.
Nope.
And when I looked at it in the manga today, you can like it's not that as a whirlpool would be like that, it slowly goes inward. Like the water is spewing out and then flowing outwards. So like that is kind of very interesting. I personally, like, my conclusion was that, but it's very hard because it could be like so many things, and it kind of depends. Is this like second world, first world? You know, like I personally really like the idea that like there could be just the ancient kingdom line.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the idea that it is some type of like Tower of Babel type thing. Yeah. Even with the, like, from the first time you see it with the levels, right? Again, if that is clearly marked by like sea levels rising, like could be super cool. And even assuming there is something underneath, right? Yeah. Like how deep does it actually go? How long has it been? Like,
if it was all part of like the same area.
Sure.
Like even the Ennis Lobby hole could just be like where they dug into the earth.
Sure, that's where the One Piece is at.
We have the Always Day Island, right? Exactly. That's where the One Piece is.
Right,
too.
Exactly.
I mean, I personally also like, and again, that's what I say, where I agree with you that certain pieces are falling in place, but then like what that actually entails could be so many different things.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea that potentially, okay, maybe it's just like, maybe Ennis Lobby is just where, you know, like the ancient humans dug into the earth to get the Forbidden Sun, and then maybe like Impel Down already, like it looks like it already was almost this prison-like thing. So maybe that's like where the slaves were that like Nika freed, whatever. That could be one thing, right? I also thought it could be interesting that maybe like this weird triangle that we get with, you know, Marineford and Impel Down and then Ennis Lobby, like could it be that the Eternal Flame is always like moving around these locations?
I like that.
Because when you think about it, like Marineford is obviously right next to the Red Line. We know that the Sunlight Eve Tree is there, right? We have the entire Fishman Island thing, which is also very close to Marijoa, where the original gods were.
Of course, and like the destruction of the Red Line, and that potentially being the thing that makes Fishman Island destroyed.
So potentially it was there in the first world, right? Then in
right.
the second world, it's moved or stolen or taken to Impel Down.
Yes.
Where then Imu maybe tries to build this big tower, tries to reach it, use it, because I think what is kind of being implied is that Imu had access to this power source, lost it, and is now trying to regain it.
Right, and that somebody, whether it's Joy Boy or Davy Jones or something, is
so
the thing that
I
kind
of like the idea that like after the second world, Joy Boy actually took, or maybe the Eternal Flame is like circulating, right, and it like went to where Ennis Lobby is. Imu tries to build another tower. Joy Boy nukes that tower with Uranus or something. All right.
Okay. You said Uranus.
Or it could be another.
No.
Yeah.
This is good because you mentioned wild cards. And I think that is honestly a wild card, right? Because the one person that keeps coming up, he's regularly in popularity polls. He just got added as DLC in the new One Piece Pirate Warriors game. Everybody, I think, expects Eneru at some point to come back.
Yes.
There will be something, especially with the moon and the flame and the mural that's now on the moon and knowing what that is, and like the automatons and like that with the robots, and there's just a lot of stuff now where you're like, okay, this means something. This is going somewhere. So I'm curious, do you think that is a final war wild card? Do you think that's a like Laugh Tale wild card? Or do you think there is actually still a possibility that he shows up in Elbaph?
I think, well, I feel like Elbaph was like obviously the big speculated one because I think like the idea was always maybe Burka's on top of Elbaph, which now does not really seem to be the case, right? I mean, I hope Enel is coming back. I think it kind of goes down a little bit to what the final saga is actually going to look like.
Yeah.
Are we going to get another surprise arc like Egghead basically was, right? Which was a very like decently big arc that was very important because I mean, the things that we know will happen is the Laugh Tale, Final War, in whatever order that might be, right?
Exactly.
And then, I mean, I hope we're gonna get at least a little bit of epilogue from Oda. I would be really sad if it's like 3 chapters by, right? Like Luffy's Pirate King, and then like here's 10 years later. Bye bye.
I have always been of the mindset that I think the final chapter is the lyrics of Bink Sake, and we're seeing everybody's dreams fulfilled.
Nice.
I really truly think like it's gonna be something where it's like all the lines lining up. You see Usopp back in the village telling the stories with Kaya. You see Nami with the map. I mean, you see like everything, right? You see the dreams of the characters, and then ends with Brook playing the song at the graves of the Straw Hats years from now.
Something like that.
Something along those lines. I don't see a world in which he does like a 2-piece. I don't see a world in which he does.
I think he talked about it that he'd be down to do it.
I'm sure he would be down to do it because it's a lot
I
of money,
I want a first world.
I do too. I want a prequel. If we're gonna ever get another One Piece thing, I don't need
second world or first world.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, 110%. Yes, yeah.
I mean, like, it sounds like there was like Space Wars almost to a certain degree in One Piece too, which would be kind of crazy, like some sci-fi stuff. Yeah. Sorry, but like my big point was, I think when it comes to Enel, I think the real big question is there going to be some sort of surprise arc where it is going to be, because as you say, like, you could probably very easily write the story with like, you could have just written the story without the entire first world. It could have just been second world, Ancient Kingdom, Joy Boy stuff. That would have worked, but Oda introduced this entire, like, there's like more prehistory. And like there were like, Nika and Joy Boy, this is like different generations, like thousands of years apart potentially. I think there's potential, like, I almost hope that there is some sort of, I'm trying to think. There's, the type of story where you defeat the big bad guy, but turns out the big bad guy has only been somebody else, or has actually been protecting Earth from like something else.
Something where like Imu was actually thinking,
like
that
keeping
he was doing
things
the right
in. Yeah, well, that's the Vegapunk thing, right?
Right.
They don't know who was in the right and whatnot. I kind of love the idea that there is going to be some twist still to the end where, like, just finding the One Piece and just taking down Imu is not enough. Yeah. Because, like, what I've always loved is the fact that very clearly the Raja pirates were so shocked. Yes. And, like, disillusioned almost to the point of, like, drowning there. Yeah. Well, you see, like, Rayleigh during the Vegapunk speech, like, just getting, like literally drinking himself to sleep almost, right? Yeah. So the fact that the answer might be, like, hey, you can save the world, but you're gonna have to like kill a lot of people or something. You're gonna have to flood the world yourself or whatever.
Again, that's the end of going back to Treasure Island, right? That is literally how Treasure Island ends. Is exactly. And with everything that you're getting with One Piece, I feel like with the stuff with Vegapunk, the things they set up in Egghead, right, where they're talking about the idea that the clouds and like. But also, being above the sea level, if the world sinks, that would create the all blue. Exactly, everything would be blue.
Literally everything is all blue.
Islands in the sky, like there's all kinds of weird stuff, which could then potentially bring it back to the first world if there was something like the space stuff. And then it's a full circle moment. Like
that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, because to me, I'm almost suspecting at this point that the first One Piece world might straight up not have been the blue planet, right? That might have been somewhere else. Yeah. Yep. So I kind of wondered, like, you kind of get the idea almost, again, Wheel of Time. I keep recommending this to everyone I know. Great fantasy story. But the idea there is also that, like, history repeats itself. Exactly. And, like, could it even be that even though it's the first, second, and third world, this has been going on for a long time in the One Piece universe or world, right? Where you have these cycles of destruction and then, maybe you have planets or whatever, the world gets reset, whatever it may be. And it's not actually the third time, it's like the 200th time, wherever, right? And could it be that we get this, like, the entire Imu thing might just straight up be like Imu Joy Boy's second world? Still a massive thing, One Piece. Sure. But is there even more to the One Piece? Like, is there even, like, are we going to take a step after Laugh Tale to even go first world? And, like, it's not only about Luffy starting the fourth age, but actually Luffy potentially breaking this cycle, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Curious to hear like what you feel about that.
I still think like if they're gonna do that, that could be fodder.
It would be super sick.
Right,
Yeah.
and I do again feel like if that again the cyclical nature of everything that would then technically be a sequel without us having to actually like see here's the kids of Luffy going on an adventure. You know, like, I don't want that actively. And I think going back to something you very briefly touched on, where you're like, I almost want like another twist where like maybe Imu thought they were doing the right thing, and then there is something else. I personally also would not care. I would be fine with that. I think truly we would face like a Kaguya level meltdown within the One Piece fandom the way it is now of people being like, this wasn't like people who aren't maybe necessarily like reading all the signs, right? Saying like,
I
this
feel
wasn't
like
set up at all. This wasn't here. This like shock final villain. And I kind of also feel like if you look at how many chapters are within One Piece and you look at when Imu was introduced, if you look at the actual like percentage of the story that Kaguya and the stuff with Otsutsuki existed in Naruto with like Imu and the stuff right now, it's actually more similar than I think a lot of people care to admit.
But I do feel that in One Piece, the reason it works a lot better, and I would say the same thing with like a certain level of destiny in One Piece too. Of course,
yeah.
I do feel it was always a fairly significant part of the story, and you can kind of see how a lot of the I think was it Randy who did a video on this about like how all the different villains in One Piece kind of foreshadow different aspects of Imu, right?
Yeah,
so I feel like the reason that Oda very clearly has thought about this before, I think it kind of works. I personally, again, I would be almost more disappointed if Imu just turns out to be this like Voldemort. Like I have beef with a 19-year-old kind of like.
Right. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a 19-year-old. It'd be like the bloodline.
No, of course, but exactly. But like I'm evil because for evil's sake. Like I really.
I think you should maybe prepare yourself that is potentially going to happen, because
I think you already see.
Not to cut you off, but I do feel like this is critically important to even something going on in God Valley right now, which is like the Shakuyaku Roger stuff, right? Like to me, I understand completely what's going on with the story. The Helen of Troy thing, like I get it, right? But realistically, it's like seeing these characters that have been built up to be legends, literally like falling head over heels, not necessarily being in love, but like going out of their way to be like, not even goofy, because I'm fine with the goofiness of One Piece.
Horny.
It's like, like I actually think that like is to the detriment of a lot of these characters.
I think Roger has suffered particularly badly.
A lot, right? And I almost feel like not in the same situation. I almost feel like Garp has suffered the same thing with what we're seeing right now. Not with
Garp has obviously suffered and I feel like there is no way we're not going to get an answer to this. Why is this man still in the Marines?
Yeah. After seeing all of
there
it,
very clearly must be more.
Yeah, because when Dragon, right, you even mentioned the thing with like the family and the family being important, all this stuff. If Dragon, frame one, goes, this is wrong, I'm going to save these babies and get the hell out of here. Yeah. And Garp is like, I didn't know any of this was happening, but
it's like, who's this guy?
Who's this guy? I've never seen him. I'm like, I don't buy it. I genuinely don't buy it.
But I feel like the
story.
I think I do have trust in the sense. I'm very sure we're gonna get something because it felt like very much on purpose to me that Oda is like, like I am aware that Garp's reaction should be this, because so I'm gonna take Dragon, who is reacting how we all think Garp should react to this all.
And I do think there is potentially like a cool story there with Dragon going about things the overt way, being a revolutionary, whereas Garp is like, I can be a cog within the machine. I mean, you see this with like the sword stuff, right? And then like, I still personally do not believe Kuzan is like evil and like on the side of Blackbeard willingly.
Does anyone
I think there's a lot of people who openly I do, man. You see it on Twitter.
You do.
I think you are maybe
every time really
yes,
every time Oda puts on look how bad
clearly
you're like look how bad Kuzan is. I'm like
even the moment where you see like the frozen tears going down with Garp, you're like, come on, dude, there's something going on there.
Like he's like literally saving Garp.
Exactly. So I think like I feel like it's pretty obvious there's more there, right? But I do think there is a section of people who think like, no, Kuzan's definitely bad, and to me that
is insane.
And again,
it is so obvious.
This goes back to like I think things within the fandom and like how things have evolved, maybe during COVID, right? Of the people like us who are like, I'm excited for the world building and I'm excited for the characters versus character strong. Me want to see character fight, and they don't care about it all, like what the development of that character is whatsoever.
Which is fine. I mean, I feel like it's kind of nice
for sure.
I think it's always been fun that One Piece can be read on so many levels.
Of course.
Speaking of which, another topic that I wanted to hear your thoughts on is I think the thing that I most appreciate about recent arcs in the post-time skip saga, and which obviously some of them, like a lot more. I think Whole Cake Island has surprisingly grown a lot, like more in favor recent years.
Yeah.
I personally always liked Wano. I was a little bit disappointed with certain things at the end, not as much as some other people.
Sure.
We can get into the Kaido thing for sure. But what all of these arcs have done is just retroactively made so many pre-time skip arcs that I was maybe not the biggest fan of. Whether it's Thriller, like reading Thriller Bark now is so infinitely more fun.
I'm so glad you touched on that. I completely agree. It's given me a newfound appreciation for pre-time skip arcs that I thought like this was okay.
Yeah.
And now I go back and I see how the story was built out and I'm like, actually, this is incredible what he's doing.
And
here,
it's
knowing where we are.
It's so much fun that it's much more like very much like you can see that very much a lot of these elements were pre-planned to a certain degree, because it's not just appreciating some of these arcs and adding elements in retrospect. It's like some things we see in these arcs only now actually make sense now.
Yes.
And that is like so I love that
I do too.
So much.
That is the thing.
Writing,
like I said, that when I see that in these flashbacks, that's the thing that like gets me.
Like writing a story that improves upon itself retroactively is like so nice. That is like, I think when people say like Goda, that for me, that is what the actual magic is.
110 billion% agree. Exactly. Yeah.
Like that's the actual 4D chess to me. Like rereading the story now is like so much fun.
Yeah.
Like even Skypiea, just going like rereading it like with a modern lens is
I do love too, because again, as an old head within like One Piece who's been reading this literally in the actual manga in English viz releases in Shonen Jump back in like Skypiea Water 7, it is wild to see like where things have come, and people hated that arc before.
Yeah.
And now you see a lot of people doing a 360.
Thriller Bark was a terrible, like I really didn't like Thriller Bark, and now I think it's insanely fun with the rocks stuff, and you have, I mean, we know like the Galela Ore stuff is going to be what, like everything. Kozuki,
still,
Moria.
even right now with the Elbaph flashback, right? Like obviously the focus is rocks, but like Loki
Moria, by the way,
and Lola, like
Moria, great cross guild member.
Love that.
Have someone to read the pony.
Yes. So happy, by the way, that we actually got something of value in that incredibly long, boring Yamato cover story that went nowhere. Absolutely, totally agree. That Moria, that little bit of a filler, not only makes so much sense, right, for what's going on with like Moria and all his like hatred of Kaido and like Kaido killing his crew, and that now tying to like Wano country, I think is great. Again, like you said, we know the Kozuki clan can read the poneglyphs, like Moria, Blackbeard capturing him, potentially being the one to read the poneglyphs, also the stuff with Pudding, like how that all falls into place. All these people who kind of know, but they're not quite Robin. It's like, oh, it's so good.
It's super fun.
It's so good.
One and like also just if you go, I mean, I really, everyone also watching, if you haven't reread the manga in a while, it is a project. It's actually a bigger feat I think than reading it for the first time.
I agree,
but I strongly recommend it. I recently, for the first time in my life, realized. Do you remember the arches that you have to go through when you enter Reverse Mountain? I forgot about this.
I literally totally forgot.
There are gates. Okay, let me.
Pull it up. I don't remember this at all.
Okay, so there are gates.
I was just looking at Reverse Mountain recently too, because of obviously all the stuff going with live action.
There are literal gates that the Straw Hats almost crash into.
Okay.
The first. Okay, let me.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm gonna pull this here.
That's fine.
So here,
move the sun over.
Yes. There are gates that they almost crash into, that Luffy needs to like. I don't
remember this at all.
And what's on these fucking things? A fucking like dragon serpent thing. Like the entire like the blood serpent and everything. Wow. Because I was like thinking about like the red line being, you know, like obviously could that be the Hellflame serpent and whatnot.
Sure.
The fact
that on the gates going over Reverse Mountain, there's
awesome. The Jormungandr, the sea serpent from Norse mythology, is on the stupid gates.
Bro, I love that.
And I'm like, how, like, the fact that there's these details in the story that I just didn't even realize were still there is so fun.
It's so good.
I'm like, what else is in the story that I mean,
there's going to be a lot.
There's got to be so many
coming
Easter
off
eggs.
of God Valley, even going into the rest of the Elbaph flashback, right? Like Harold and Loki and all the stuff that's going to be happening with the history of Elbaph. Like, I am curious for your take on this, because I think this kind of goes into what you were just talking about of like other things that were maybe going to be like making more sense after Elbaph is done. I do wonder, like, do you think that Elbaph is going to continue on for more than the next year?
It's really hard to say, right? My gut feeling has always been that Elbaph should be extremely a Wano-esque arc.
I agree.
And that then kind of got slapped a little bit in the face early on, but now I kind of get the feel it really feels hard to say. I think a year, it feels very realistic
Yeah.
for a few reasons, but I think my question is rather is what we're getting right now the actual main conflict? Like, is Elbaph actually all going to be mostly God Valley flashback, and then we get like a little bit Holy Knights kind of not doing anything,
Yeah.
and then Imu sweeping in, and then either, I mean, the two things now are either like they find a way to get rid of Imu already, which would feel a bit prematurely.
I don't think it would be getting rid of Imu necessarily. I think it would be a way, which we've already seen with Gabon, right?
Yeah.
Of stopping the regeneration and them having to retreat, and that being the first front for Final War, right? Like with Ragnarok and everything that happens with the mythology. To me, that idea of like Loki being that last piece and then all of them actually going and taking charge, like and the way even all the pieces are kind of lining up with like Cross Guild and even the stuff with Yamato, to be fair, right?
I mean, Yamato, I think Yamato is heading back into the story Oda said, right?
Absolutely. Finally.
I'm so salty still that she's not there already.
I completely 100% agree. I feel like the Yamato thing was a huge... I feel like Wano in general really soured me, and I do feel like a lot of other creators on this space in terms of like what we expect
broken
out of the
promises,
story. Right. And then I think it was funny because that feeling of like, not necessarily broken promises, but like seeing the cracks in the armor kind of like washed away, at least for me personally, with Egghead. And then now, especially with Elbaph, where now I'm getting to a point where, like you said, we're clearly getting to like the end game now, and it's just exciting to read. It's not necessarily like, again, fun for me to theorize in the same way, but it is fun for me to like absorb
and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, and I could get your take on this as like the number god, right? If we're gonna, give people names. You always talk about like numerology within One Piece. You always talk about like, thank you very much. You always talk about like how this stuff connects. Curiously, what volume are we on right now that just got released the week that we're recording this?
Did you buy it?
I did. It's
okay. Because I was like, I was like, should I buy one for Roger?
I got one
I'm like,
here.
no way, you didn't buy one.
First day I went to 7-Eleven.
113.
Right. If you think about how many volumes come out per year, right? And you think about that thing Oda said years ago that people clowned on, they were like, it's never going to happen, where he said at the end of Wano Country, approximately 5 years before the end of the story, right? When Wano ended, back in like 2022, 2023, right? We had all these other new chapters, all these other volumes. If you look at the release schedule for volumes, assuming that we get 113, 114, 115 this year, 116, 117, 118 next year, that pretty much then takes us 118, 119, 120 to the 30th anniversary of One Piece, 2027.
Oh, for the story to end?
No.
I was like,
no. But for the end that people are presuming is going to be the end. Because I agree with you.
That's going to be more.
There is going to be like a kind of moment that we get, which is also why I think Final War happens first. I think you get this massive war arc. I think Elbaph maybe lasts for like another 3 volumes from where we are now. And I think that until volume 120 takes us to the exactly halfway mark, post-time skip and pre-time skip, 60 and 60. Again, he likes his numerology, right? That would then take us directly right into
and then another 30.
Exactly. And then we end up getting like another like 10 to 30, right? For this actual final arc that really wraps everything up.
I mean, I think that's maybe the most mind-blowing thing to me is that I would call it an unforced error. It's obviously not an error.
No.
I call it an unforced error because Oda says he wants to wrap up the story and he keeps introducing new things that
but these new things fall into old things that I think are very clearly getting like revealed one after another and answering like tons of questions. But the pacing of Elbaph, you compare that, not to get off topic again and like dog on Wano, but really like the pacing of the reveals that have been happening in Elbaph
have been crazy,
are like mind-blowing.
But I think you have to keep in mind, Roger, I think no, it does not
at all.
But I think you have to keep in mind the nature of many of these reveals. It's like, yes, they answer some questions,
sure,
but I feel like in the end, it's introducing new factions, new characters. I mean, Shamrock alone, the fact that clearly for Oda, he's one of the most important characters in the entire story, and we know nothing about him. Is like in like the mural, the first like the gods. All these things. Add questions that like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we didn't even have.
No, right? I mean, I think there were some people way back when who were like, "That's not actually Shanks, it's his twin," But like, funnily enough,
I still kind of think it might still be Shanks.
I also kind of think it might still be Shanks too, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I mean, I think going back to Elbaph, I think I could see it wrapping up fairly fast. I mean, I think as both a creator like with my livelihood being tied to One Piece to a certain degree. But also as a fan, I think the more One Piece I get, the happier I am in my life.
Of course.
And I think we're all not like, as long as it keeps the level that it is at.
Exactly.
I think no one is complaining if we get like plus 5 years here or there with like an extra arc.
I think so long as Oda stays healthy and creating.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of the other thing that's like the weird side of the coin with Wano, right? Is that he clearly had a lot of freedom to do whatever he wanted, right? And write on all these characters and all these other factions. And I think people just like were afraid to rein him in. I really do. I think his editors and other people were genuinely afraid to rein him in because they're like, this is Oda. What's he cooking?
Let him
this
cook
is going to
him,
be awesome. Let's see Kaido. We're going to get this big flashback. It's going to be awesome. Whoa. Oh, okay. Here's the new Straw Hat. This is the new Straw Hat. This is the new Straw Hat. It's being set up. We're spending a lot of time with this character. It's going to be great. Oh, Yamato's. You're just going to stay back and be the guardian for Momo. Even though Momo's had a guardian for 200 plus chapters
and is a
that is still alive via a stupid there's so much of stuff like that I do feel like he kind of had a realization within himself with the announcement of like the final saga where it's like, I actually really got to like nose to the grindstone and do it.
I do
and
also
I feel like that break that he took, that extended break with the manga.
He was like sharpening things a little bit.
He sharpened all of what we're getting right now.
I think still in classic Oda fashion, even by sharpening things, he kind of like broadened the scope a little bit, right?
But he broadened it in a way.
But the story is a lot more, feels a lot more focused.
That's
but
what
I do feel I do feel like with ironically by everything he's introduced, even though I think the story feels a lot more focused.
Yes.
I do think it's actually going to be even longer than we thought,
well,
ironically.
Like, I don't think it's going to end in 2027. But what I'm saying is I think there will be like a weird, because I agree with you in that like the potential of a fake out type thing. I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a villain after Imu or something like that. I think it's going to be like,
it might just be like actually like the nature of whatever the One Piece. I mean, I'm not sure if you've heard this idea before. It's something I've been floating, I think like half a year ago or something. I think I talked about this with like Tekken and Sophie before. The idea that potentially like could the One Piece world itself just be a star, like the Dyson sphere.
I love that.
Thing, right?
Love that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like the water just cooling down this like melting.
Yeah.
Thing, like you kind of need to flood the world.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly.
So that could be fun. But yeah, I think very quickly wrapping up the Elbaph story. I think for me, I could see it ending in like a year.
Yeah.
I would just personally, I feel like I've barely even seen anything of Elbaph as an island.
Layers and everything. I mean, there's so much. The scale of everything. We've literally seen one town, one beach, and like a couple branches.
And like a little bit of stuff. I think, I mean, I do agree that I feel a lot of like Wano was like kind of side quests and Oda having fun, and maybe you could have lasered in on certain things a bit more. But generally, I was a very big fan that I felt like I knew this entire place and this entire island so well.
Sure. Yeah.
With Elbaph, I feel like we've just landed, seen the village, and then we kind of like already went into. So I'm like, I know nothing about their culture really yet Warland, or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Warland. And I'm like, yes, we know like heralds, but like what did things look like before and stuff. So I do hope we still get something like that. It kind of falls into like the old Morch thing. Do we get this like first fake out battle?
The raid
will fail.
Will fail.
Yes.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But it would be nice if there was like a more like if maybe Imu gets, they get like their little training arc or whatever. Sure. And Imu has to retreat at first. And then we still get like a more Elbaph centered arc around Loki and stuff.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, that mural alone is like, I feel like reading the mural and knowing what's going on there is going to be so critically important. Like even because Robin, I'm assuming, will be the one that like talks about it with the scholars and like even the stuff that's going on with the owl and like the library. And there's just so much stuff. I mean, your name is O'Hara, so I feel like yours probably extremely
the library that, by the way, is way older than just the Void Sentry again, the robot.
Going back to like the previous worlds. Exactly. Right.
There's like so much. I mean, I personally really like the idea of the 4 original gods potentially just being Lunarians.
I love that.
Who are like this super technologically advanced race, right? That whether the One Piece planet is actually like, like a Dyson sphere, like an artificial structure, or even if it's just a planet that they came and terraformed with these. Like, I like the idea that the ancient weapons actually are like terraforming things,
absolutely.
right?
That'd be awesome.
Like, because it's like, what is
the
like rain?
Line.
You have rain god, sun god, earth god,
Yep.
and the sun god, which is like it's
tides.
just agriculture basically.
So specifically, you were talking about the fact that like you don't necessarily know whether or not it's going to wrap up quick or
it feels like God Valley also like feels like the main like the island thing is wrapping up now with like the next couple of chapters might already be over probably by the time this is out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically we're still like in the Loki Herald flashback, so I think we should still see
There's a lot of
probably
stuff
how
there with like Domi Reversi, Lola, Big Mom, like Big Mom being present for all this rock stuff. Kaido's Devil Fruit, right? And then we know she wants.
By the way, she must have been pregnant the entire time. She was
like, what's going on? Yeah, right. Well, the baby Katakuri.
That was so cute.
The whole thing was like, I want to give the fruit to Katakuri.
The dragon
like,
Katakuri would have been so sick.
Yeah. But I hope that's a future SBS. That somebody
so
asked
nice.
like, what would Katakuri
look
in
like
dragon form when they draw it? Would be cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there might still. I hope we still get because there must be some sort of payoff with Rock, like the Rock's Herald Imu thing. So I hope we get some stuff because we already saw how he got killed, obviously, but this hopefully ties in.
Yeah.
So that still happens. Do you feel like? I really kind of wish that there was a little like, it doesn't even need to be a time skip, but like Scopper taking Luffy and being like, hey, like you guys gonna like, we're gonna take a month here
to like train
and do
this
stuff.
Goes back, I think, to the thing that got introduced at the very beginning of Elbaph, which I'm still like, what does this mean? Which is like the don't
weird
get lost
time
here,
things,
the weird time thing that's going on. I
like
it's
not the island overall, but maybe there is some part
like some
or
type
some
of like time dilation.
Yeah,
thing. There's something going on, right? And I don't necessarily know to what extent he'd want to like touch on that with like the giants and their aging, but I almost feel like when you look at what's happening in the story and like with how Dragon is being set up and like Shamrock leaving, us having this whole flashback, all this other stuff happening, but them making a point to bring up in one of the Elbaph chapters, revolutionaries are making their move. They're making it where the people who are the celestial dragons in Marijoa aren't getting the food.
Someone's fighting right now, whether it's Blackbeard or Dragon.
And we know there's revolutionaries. We know there's all these god knights. Like,
you feel like there's no time for it.
I feel like almost all the stuff that's going on right now in Marijoa is the beginning of Final War. I actually think right now the revolutionaries have made their move against the Holy Knights. And we've said time and time again, I mean, he said in the story actively, when that happens, when the revolutionaries try to turn over the world, that's when everything's going to go crazy. And like, I'm so curious to hear what Oda's Jump Festa thing is going to be for this year, even though it's probably going to be like, this person's going to fight this person. Wow.
What?
Right. But I do genuinely feel like there is something there where Shamrock and Garling and Dragon and Garling now being one of the Gorosei and like all that. I mean,
Garling and Shamrock very clearly. It wasn't. Am I misremembering that Oda said something about like
both of them being super important?
Well, yeah, it was almost like no Shamrock like he kind of needed. Because I think one of his editors, and I might be misremembering, maybe this is like fake news, so please take it. But I feel like I remember that very recently Oda shared something where he talked to an editor, and the editor wanted to like, he was like, like the entire Shamrock reveal, like why are you doing this like this way?
It'll make sense.
And apparently he had to explain the One Piece itself to his editor,
right? For
Shamrock to make sense.
Exactly. Don't you think it's like a brotherly thing?
It might be. I mean,
I feel like with the who do you fear more thing with Davy D. Jones, Joy Boy,
well, also like half Celestial Dragon, half Davy Clan, and whatnot.
Yeah. Like I think the brothership, family ties, like again, what's more important, will or blood?
Do you think Shamrock is a bad guy? Because there is a very popular Japanese theory.
Okay,
that it's kind of like the flip thing that Shanks is actually going to end up being kind of like the dick, and that Shamrock actually.
I don't think so. Okay. I think with how much Oda loves Shanks,
I do think so too.
I think it would be sick.
But
I do think totally. If that was the case, I would be thrilled. But I do not think that's the case at all.
It's still very weird that we don't know like how much time do you think Shanks spent up there? Was it like a day, or was it like a year, or was it like 5 years?
I think we're gonna find that out when we get to Final War and we get to these matchups, right? Because like with Garling, that's very clearly a dragon matchup. Prior to all this, Imu's like big bad at the end of Final War, right? But like realistically, I think when you look at that spread that he did of all the characters,
I don't even think so. I think I
think Shamrock and Shanks. I think that like seeing how the two grew up.
Can I give you a really hot take?
Let's hear it.
I'm happy to share this here.
Yeah.
And hear your thing. I think that Dragon is the second most important character in all of One Piece.
That's not a hot take at all. I completely agree with you.
I think
that's literally not a hot take at all.
I think that okay, happy to hear that. Because I think that Dragon is going to be. I think that Dragon is going to be almost as important as Luffy at the end.
Completely agree.
Yeah,
completely 100% agree. Because again, I'm saying in terms of matchups within Final War, right? You've got the father figures, right? You've got the brothers. You've got stuff going on that are like long-fed matchups. Again, the Shiyu stuff with Zoro, because that's certainly not going to be Shiyu killing Mihawk randomly during Final War, and him fighting Shiyu is like the most bullshit, like boring ass theory I've ever heard in my life. It's not going to happen, And I think people would be genuinely really upset if that kind of thing did.
Can I?
But
okay, I'm throwing all my
bro.
I
love this.
This is super fun. This is super fun.
Yeah.
black blades, right?
Mhm.
I think the very common conception or idea that people have is like, oh, you just use it a lot, and like I put so much Conqueror's Haki in this that it turns black. We only know of 2 that actually exist
Correct.
in the story, right? And I've been a very big fan recently, ever since we got the Haki knot of the idea. You have like, I personally really like, because I retranslated like Bing Sake and stuff. I think it's like Joy Boy's story basically, right?
Yeah, right.
And we have the spinning village, and we know Joy Boy could spin his Haki into like a knot, right? So the idea that you can actually turn like Haki into like physical stuff.
Like
straw hat, like a straw hat,
bottom of
but also like black blades. Like, do you like the idea that potentially instead of like a blade like slowly turning black, you literally have to craft it physically with Haki?
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely love that idea, because I think it can't be something as simple of like you infused it with your armament
like
to
20
be super
times.
strong.
Like you have like this like little side quest popping up, did it 999 of 1,000 times.
No way. And when you look at like,
and it's just Mihawk like grinding like.
No. people like to joke about like the Mihawk painting,
watching like a stream in the background, just like Haki infusing every day.
No, I think there is definitely something to that, and I think even like with the eyes that Mihawk has, that's so important.
It's like, and he was a Holy Knight probably, right?
Yeah.
Do you like the idea that Brook might have been a Holy Knight?
I do like the idea.
That'd be so sick.
I like the idea that either one was a Holy Knight, or I like the idea that like he was a guard for one of the Holy Knights, right? Because we know that he was a guard for a royal family. Yeah. We know there's something going on with Gunko.
Well, we know
Gunko was the child within.
Didn't it? I think he said. I think in his intro, like when he explains his past a little bit, I think he just says he was an officer in like some country, right?
Correct. Yeah, but we know now that's Gunko's family. By the way, how do you say Gunko?
I said Gunko.
It's Gunko.
Gunko, yeah.
Okay, because I keep saying Gunko and people are like, you're saying it wrong.
Yeah, Gunko.
And I've said it's Gunko.
Yeah.
Okay,
Gunko.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just like army kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Brook has all the Holy Knight hallmarks, right? He has the kind of like rapier thing. He like this very elegant thing about him.
Yeah.
I think like, and we know nothing. Like, it's kind of nuts that we know nothing about this guy.
I know.
And I feel like, I mean, I love all these things. That's why I always, even they might be bullshit, but I've always loved the Nami being like someone's very like.
I do too.
Theories.
I like whoever. Well, I mean, you just got with the most recent SBS the thing with like Frankie.
And Queen,
right? That, like pretty much outright being.
Which I don't love too much, but
that is kind of falling in that category, right? Where like who Nami's mother could potentially be, or like.
Well, I gotta say, so I understand the people who say, isn't it kind of boring if all the Straw Hats end up being like important?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like. Brook Holy Knight, like Nami being like
Oda likes Star Wars. I mean, we've known this for a long time. Oda likes Star Wars. There's the Skywalker family.
I'm a sucker for it too.
Voice of all things, Force. I mean, there's like so much in One Piece.
I'm a real sucker for that stuff too. So
I do very much think like that is going to be part of it, where like more characters get revealed to be related to people, or tied in with people that we're not expecting. And that gets revealed very quickly over the course of Final War with some of these matchups. Yeah.
Do you want to get a little bit into Wano then? Because I think
far
one
more thing before because this is going to be a whole big discussion. It could take us to the end.
It could take us to the end.
I just want to ask you one thing: Sabo versus Akainu. It's happening, right? Like we're getting that fight. That is the final Akainu opponent is Sabo. Flame Emperor versus Akainu. Akainu straight up telling Ace, I think fruit will never be strong enough. Sabo beating him with the blue flames, carrying on the will of Ace, taking down Akainu. Like,
so I'm not saying no.
Second in command of the revolutionaries versus second in command of the world government. Like,
I'm not saying no, but I personally do think I'm like in the camp that Akainu is gonna betray the government. I think.
Really?
I think Akainu
Kizaru,
after
I think makes sense in Kuzan.
I think all of them.
Really?
I think all of them. I think, well, because Kizaru, like, Kuzan is the most obvious one, right?
Obviously.
Like, Fujitora is the most obvious one. Kuzan the same, right? He's always, like, very, like, supporting Luffy, protecting Robin. I think Kizaru obviously has, I mean, by the way, Kizaru's character arc in Egghead is like, might have been one of my favorite character arcs recently.
Yes, agree.
I think Akainu has had these very sneaky moments ever since he got promoted, where very clearly, like, his absolute justice, like, it's falling apart in front of his eyes. We see him at first, we see him like sitting at his desk. He's like, this is like, gotta do, it's so complicated. And and then he realizes I can't do shit without the Gorosei.
Yeah.
Like telling me like what to do. Then he realizes everything is kind of just for the Celestial Dragons anyways. We see him then like being very like, instead of before he was like executing his own men, right? Like left and right. Now he's like, oh, I'm not sending people to Wano. I'm like going to sacrifice like
all these
innocent people. Then he's like, then we have the entire like Kuma climbing up, and he's like, you're just like a clock in a machine, but he's kind of like looking at himself, fuck, what am I doing here?
What am I gonna do?
What am I doing right here? And then the scene where he like quite genuinely apologizes to Kizaru, and is like, sorry, I
had to kill your friend. Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm not sure if Kaido, if Akainu is redeemable.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, I do see him at the end doing the right thing in the story.
I could see that happening, and that still being the case that Sabo fights.
Yeah, I think that's why I say I'm not saying no.
I agree, because I do think the weird thing, and I'm sure this is also a theory that's been going around in Japan as well, is like the whole thing of Kobe's new girlfriend being Akainu's daughter.
Oh,
with like the tattoos and with the
Hibari,
flower. Yeah, exactly.
The Hiroshima accent.
Exactly. Right. So I'm almost wondering if that becomes the thing that like redeems him, the thing that like the one thing that is not actually absolute justice.
I mean, I still absolutely love that cover spread with the sword tattoo.
Right.
I mean, if Akainu is the secret sword leader, that would be like the craziest.
Not
reveal.
only would that be super sick, but again, like I feel like if that was the case, right, and that him and Kuzan planned this, like did all the stuff with Punk Hazard, and made
was it all a setup?
Legendary story of like, oh, they were fighting for 3 long days, and then or was it 3 days or
10
like
days?
3,
I think
10 days exactly, and then the island changed the atmosphere of the island. And
it was like bullshit,
and it was
I would love that.
I love that idea too.
I think also that they just flipped the coin at the end. And it was like
and
one of us.
That would be cool. I think that would be genuinely really cool. But I also see a world in which maybe Hibari ends up again being the thing where like the Gorosei or something, one of them ends up like coming into a situation where they're going to kill Hibari. And at this point, Akainu is like, I can't do it. And then...
I mean, really the only... Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the only person right now who really, like, has no signs of, like, switching allegiances is Green Bull. But also, he's a big Akainu fanboy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But otherwise, like, Fujitora has helped Luffy.
Fujitora. I still think Fujitora
Luffy.
is, like, full-on revolutionary.
Yeah, it might be.
I really do. I, like, by the end of the story is, like, full stop.
Kuzan obviously has helped Luffy a ton. Yes. Kizaru has not helped Luffy as well.
No.
Well, the food.
Well, the food, but you're saying has now helped Luffy.
Has now helped Luffy.
Oh, I thought you said has not helped Luffy.
Oh, has now helped.
Okay,
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was confused. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So,
I got you.
So you know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like all the admirals are kind of gonna turn. And I do also feel, and I still feel like we are gonna get some catharsis, right? As you say, and maybe like in case the revolutionaries are up now in Marijo at this point, maybe we're gonna get this Akainu versus like the big Sabo Akainu fight, right?
I'd love it.
And then again, it does really feel like all of the admirals, like even with obviously there are levels, right? Like Akainu's philosophy is crazy.
Yeah.
But in like at their core, very dangerous.
Oh, I thought that was your neighbor being like, you guys are being too loud.
No, it was the bottle. At their core, even Akainu really wants to protect people, right? Like we see him like having this really rough upbringing where he almost looks like a pirate, like and is like he probably had like really had some traumatic experiences.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm sure you've also heard this one as well. The whole thing that the admiral that was killed by rocks was actually Akainu's father. Like that's a whole big thing that people talk, which like I don't love that, but
I'm not sure if that makes sense.
And also timeline wise, I'm like I don't think that really makes sense.
I think Akainu probably timeline wise I also think
right because how old is Akainu currently?
Must be like in his 60s,
right?
Probably
that's
70s?
Right. I said, right. So
or maybe a bit younger, 50s.
I mean, maybe.
I'm definitely 50 plus. Let me look that up.
Yeah, look it up. But I see that happening a lot. A lot of people talking about that's come up a lot in like live discussions, and it does seem to be like this thing where it's like, oh no, that's the reason why he's so hardened and like why he wants the absolute justice. But I almost
55.
55.
So he would have been 15. I don't. Because
then that's okay. That
in the image we see of him as a kid, like it feels like that is what shows him being traumatized. No, like growing up in like a dangerous area in poverty and something.
Yeah. Well, it could have been.
I mean, it could have been.
Admiral like thought he was doing something good for his family, and like
I mean, I'm not saying no, but like in the end,
I also do not buy it, which is why I asked. But
even still, like in the end, very clearly, like he had some very traumatic experience with pirates, where he was like, I want to protect innocent people, and there are no good pirates. Like I've seen what they do, kind of like thing, right?
Yeah.
While like the celestial dragons, with exceptions again, do feel more like these like just morally so corrupted people like in it for themselves. So I feel like in the end, having all the marine admirals also turn on it, because from the beginning, like the Marines obviously have been set up as an organization that probably will survive the world government.
Yeah.
Like or at least in its current.
Well, there has to be.
Kobe and Smoker and who not, right?
Smoker and everybody. Yeah.
So yeah. Do you want to get into
Let's
Wano
do
and
it.
Kaido?
Come on, let's do it. If you want to do this, let's.
Because I feel like we've agreed on almost everything today.
Yeah, we have pretty much agreed on everything.
So in case people watching don't know, Roger recently made a tweet that Kaido is not in the top 5
I agree.
One Piece villains.
Top 5 One Piece, and I stand by that.
Which I'm very curious because for me as a little bit of context, why I'm like very much opposed to that is while Wano was going on, Wano was already for me the best arc in One Piece. That changed a little bit with the ending because it did have faults for me too, and I think especially like Yamato no joining was like the one thing that, and I think Zoro's backstory, like family thing being revealed,
Big Mom's amnesia. There's a lot.
Big Mom's amnesia. I was personally absolutely fine with.
We had a discussion about this on the last podcast.
Yeah,
right.
I thought it was a very. I thought it was very like just the fact that we like was it elegant per se? Maybe not, but I felt like that we got a. It showed us kind of like Big Mom's it showed us kind of like Big Mom's like nicer like core like her innocent side, like her actually protecting Nami and Chopper was very nice. So maybe not the most elegant, I personally didn't, but like I do agree, and I do understand why some people have gripes with Wano, and I do also understand why people have gripes. Like I definitely want you to explain your point in more detail, but I do assume that part of it at least is going to be we didn't really get a proper backstory for Kaido, and it kind of felt like we didn't really know his motivations, which I would to a certain degree agree with you. I feel like that with Kaido, for me, the same thing that has happened with pre-time skip One Piece has happened, where with Egghead and now with the Rocks flashback and everything we've been learning about Joy Boy and Nika, I think Kaido, with every new information dump that we get, makes so much like Oda is almost like kind of putting like revealing the full image, because for me, very clearly Kaido, we already learned this in Wano, but it only now makes sense how much Kaido really was all about Joy Boy.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Kaido kind of foreshadowed everything that we're now learning about Joy Boy being this like mix between liberation and chaos and destruction, right, that we have. And Kaido's entire like character arc being kind of, hey, I want to, you know, bring like at first maybe thinking he himself could be Joy Boy, and then when he realized he was not,
and that at least stuff with King
at least making it his job, right, like creating the next Joy Boy. And I feel like in Red, like again, but maybe you can make the fair critique that in the arc while it was going on, it was maybe not enough, but I feel like Oda just wanted to save so much of Kaido's motivation for these like later reveals now, which I'm not sure doesn't excuse it, but
that you just touched on exactly what it is, right? That he is essentially interesting for the purpose of something else, right? That it's for future reveals, that these future reveals that are happening maybe give you a little more backstory into like why he is the way that he is, but it's for the purpose of like setting up other stuff.
Really?
And I felt very strongly.
You feel his
like
character isn't interesting?
I think he's making actually a conscious effort now, like even with not the most recent chapter, but like 2 ago, where he like knocks Big Mom in the face with like the club. I'm so curious as to what the actual original Japanese translation was when Big Mom was like, I gave you this fruit, you owe me your life, and he's like, yeah, we'll talk about it later or whatever. Like the way that it was translated in English when that happened was very clearly, even not that Big Mom is trustworthy, right? And like he can change things on a dime, but the way that Big Mom said it in that moment very clearly was like, oh no, there is like a deeper relationship here, to the point where even if you go back to like God Valley and what she's wearing in God Valley during the little glimpse of the flashback there to what we get in the exact same scene like 2 years later, I think he changed a couple things up with the story to make Kaido seem like a little cooler. And obviously
really interesting.
And Kaido is cool, right? I'm not saying he's like not a cool villain. I like the dragon thing. I love his power, right? Like I think he's got
I'm going to very quickly interrupt you.
Yes.
Maybe like just before you explain to me like more about Kaido, can you give me your top 5 villains that you put in then?
Let me give you my list. I have like
15 a list
that I listed.
Let's go.
Let's pull this tweet back up. Let's reminisce again on all the stuff that I liked. I do feel like first and foremost, still Flamingo is number 1. Without even looking it up, like that is still the one that to me stands out because of not only his connection with what we're getting now, but also his importance as like a wild card character in the final ending bit of the story. Him knowing the truth about the world, or some part of it, right? Knowing that there's like a secret, whether that is the empty throne, whether that's the straw hat underneath. Like there is more to him, and there's more to his family even with the Don Quixote family. And I think that tying into all the stuff we're getting end of series right now with like brothers and how they go in different directions and Corazon and that flashback being so good. Like I think there's issues with the Dressrosa arc. I like Dressrosa, but I do think there are a lot of issues with Dressrosa that you can also tie to Wano Country, but I don't think any of that has anything to do with Doflamingo's character.
I think for me, the one thing, because I love Doflamingo, and I think he would probably be my number 2.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that is a bit of a minus is his devil fruit. I think it's not.
No, whoa. Yeah. We are total disagreement about it. I can't even search for the tweet right. So maybe I'm never gonna look for this. We'll just talk about it off the top of my head. Because I feel like the string fruit, the fact that he is a user of this weird, what seemingly is a boring fruit and found so many cool ways to utilize it is awesome. The fact that he's stitching up his body, right? Acting like a puppeteer to all these other people.
I think the fact
I don't love the bird cage. You know how I feel about the bird cage.
Yeah,
we talked
the
about
bird
this
cage. I think it's too. I think
thing.
it's too much. I think the bird cage is obviously for many different reasons problematic in a lot of ways. I think why can he fly with his strings? Why can he
flying on
make
this? He's literally using them
Spider-Man?
to pull himself up. Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I feel like leaning a little bit more. I think it might have been Rustage who I talked about this with Daniel Rustage. He also said, would it have not been, and I kind of agree, would it have not been more powerful if, as fun as Gear 4 Luffy and everything was in the fight, would it have not been more impactful with all the manipulation and doing things from behind and pulling the strings literally? Sure. And we get that literal thing with Bellamy.
Sure.
Would it have not been more interesting to actually have Luffy fight a Zoro, for example?
Sure.
And actually have Dofi be more a little bit
would it not have been more exciting for Luffy to beat Kaido in some way other than a giant punch in Gear 5? Literally Oda said out of his mouth, I am not going to have Kaido be beaten by a giant punch. And what happens at the end of Wano Country? He gets beaten with a giant punch. Now, mind you,
it was an enormous punch.
Sure.
Okay?
I think you and I are in agreement, right? Because I think a lot of people who don't like Kaido as a character and really kind of don't like Wano, I think maybe don't love Gear 5. I think where we share our opinion, I love Gear 5.
Oh, yeah.
I think it fits Luffy perfectly. I think in terms of
I also think that inevitably, and I'm not sure if you're going to agree with this, I think Gear 5, even though so we know Oda himself said that he kind of felt that Luffy was getting a little bit too serious, and Gear 5 was kind of his way of injecting that fun back into it.
I agree.
Right? Because Luffy, even though he is a fairly static character in general, he has this mini arc, obviously, through Ace's death and losing his crew, where he kind of realizes he needs to be a bit more serious and actually he grows definitely as a leader. Yeah. It's not he's more of an ideal, obviously, that people strive around, and he's not like Sanji, for example. Sure. But he does have this character development where he gets cooler and he has these more serious moments, right? And I think it was getting to the point where Luffy walking up with his coat and everything was where Oda was maybe okay, what we're gonna he obviously was planning for this, but it was getting too serious almost for him. I would probably my point was I would probably guess that we're also gonna get to a point where Gear 5 is gonna stop being just goofy. And
for sure.
And already
terrifying almost.
From the anime, I'm not a big
he's all in shadow with the red eyes.
I'm not a big fan of the anime still, even though I think the animation is great. I just feel like the anime has just almost become its own thing. The power scaling in the anime is not the power scaling in the manga for me, right? Yeah. But the way that they portray how as an opponent, you see this deranged godly figure, I think we're going to get more and more of that. Yeah. And I think it's going to, I'm very curious if Luffy's also ever going to maybe lose control of this again.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
I hope we get something where Imu attempts to Domi Reversi
Luffy,
right? And that Luffy, just like how you see Rocks for a little while containing it, right? Yeah. And then he finally loses it when they talk about Herald. He is still doing a pretty good job holding it back. We're going to see something where Luffy, it's unaffecting him, right? Yeah. And he literally he's pushing through. Yeah. His Nico.
Or it might just it also might be that Luffy himself would you hate if this literally just popped into my head? Yeah, would you hate if this happened? The classic Naruto thing where Luffy himself can't beat Imu. But then he kind of shuts down, gets knocked out by Imu, and then the spirit of Nico awakens, and you kind of have this
we kind of got that with Kaido. That's literally what Gear 5. You see the moment he gets beaten, he falls down, the heart beats us, and then he gets Gear 5.
But I feel like Luffy, so Luffy's personality does change in Gear 5. But I'd still feel in the fight with Kaido, he's still he has these. You can see there's different personality attributes kind of influencing him, but it's still like Luffy per se making the decisions and trying stuff out.
Sure.
I kind of wonder if we're gonna get like a full like Nine Tails like on a rage thing.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I also think kind of interesting. I think there would be a subsection of people who would be upset. But again, it's not like that wouldn't upset me. The same way that like again,
like a monster point Luffy,
right? Because to me, I think something that I love about One Piece, and again, there's a lot of different ways like you can read Kaido and enjoy it. Yeah. Like there's a great video AJ did about like Kaido as a character. They're really really good, right? Because a bunch of people even on that tweet were like, you should watch AJ's video. So I'm like, sure thing. So I watched it and recorded a reaction. That actually should be up by the time that this goes up as well. Because I've like pre-scheduled a lot of stuff for while I'm in Japan.
Makes sense.
But essentially, like I totally agreed with a lot of his points, and I thought it was like a really good breakdown of the story, but it very much felt like to me like apologizing for problems that were there and trying to find the reasoning as opposed to outright explaining from within the story how he is as a character, right? Like I think it's clear as day Kaido is like a brute kind of character, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? He obviously has a lot of stuff in terms of the theming with like a legacy, right? With like Oden and honorable deaths and all that, trying to kill himself the first time that we see him, right? Not attempting it, but then at the same time like seeing everything with Kaido, like was he even really trying to kill himself, like hopping off the thing and landing on the island, knowing what we know now about him. It's like him being present during all this stuff in God Valley, him quite literally like being rocked by his own crew members in the past. Like I feel in one way the Rocks flashback has added to his character in terms of like making me like him more. Like the fact that he does just like smack Big Mom in the face to get the
Do you
fruit.
not think that he might have just been trying? So okay, interesting, because like obviously he has this like depressive side to him too, which I like.
For sure.
But I think the way that I have been reading it recently is more that Kaido might have just not actually been trying to kill himself, but just do what then happened to Luffy. I think that Kaido might have been trying to awaken Nico.
Like within himself, right? Thinking that if he dies, then it would awaken Nico within himself.
Because very clearly, like, which was kind of like a big thing with the Rocks flashback in general, God Valley, like, there are way more people who know about Imu and like all the shenanigans. Like that explains why Kaido and Big Mom, like they know so much more.
Don't you think if that's the case, knowing what we now know about Rocks, right? Knowing all these characters, their knowledge within their own crew, right? Don't you think that if Rocks was looking for the Nika fruit, that he would know that that is the reason why he's looking for it, that would awaken within himself? Why would he then eat this dragon fruit, become a dragon? Because clearly becoming a dragon is not awakening Nico with
but the way it's portrayed is that the only thing that the Rocks pirates get explained is that Rocks has this big plan.
Right.
And he needs 2 devil fruits for it.
Right.
But they don't know which devil fruits.
And we don't know that they don't know.
Technically we don't know.
We don't know that they don't know. And I think there's a lot more to like the Rocks relationship with his crewmates that I think could actually be fleshed out within the next couple chapters.
Could be. I do think the fact that Kaido says to Luffy, so you couldn't be Joy Boy either, kind of like tells you, unless he's like talking about previous users of the rubber fruit or like the Nika fruit, but it kind of reads more as like, oh, you are someone who looks like you are someone strong with a devil fruit. Who can be, you know, and you have a mythical devil fruit.
Yes.
So you have potential is like the way that I was more looking at it. Like basically saying that Kaido didn't quite exactly know what this fruit was. He just knew there was one that was necessary to become Joy Boy. Yeah. And he thought that potentially because he had a mythical devil fruit, it could be him.
Yeah. Now, you were asking me earlier, other villains that I feel like are stronger than Kaido. Katakuri. Number 1. I think that's also...
Katakuri's my favorite.
Is your number 1. Right. I think like the way that they developed his story, while at the time I didn't like the Flampe thing, like and him stabbing himself for the purpose of that fight, I think looking back at it, I actually do very much enjoy it. Like, because it does set up him as a character and make him far more interesting. And in a weird way, as much as I have a lot of gripes with Big Mom, I've been very open about it. I find Big Mom,
I love Big Mom,
a way more fascinating character than Kaido by like a significant.
I like both of them.
I mean, you can like both, but you were saying about the top 5 thing, and like
I do wonder
above them.
I do wonder. I think the probably the theme I see is that, and we talked about this earlier. Since you are mostly interested in the character, and I am too. I'm a big character development guy, but maybe the lore even more.
Yeah.
And I think because Kaido is so heavily tied in my eyes, and becomes even more heavily tied all the time to Joy Boy and like the hidden, like everything we're learning right now.
Don't you think a lot of that though comes like removing the theory crafting like content creator part out of it, right? As just like a basic reader.
I think so.
You think so?
I think so. I think that Kaido, I think I would concede that Kaido probably suffered under Oda saving things for his character.
I agree.
The same way I think that some other like characters will just like Dragon keep suffering because very clearly, again, I'm convinced that he is just the second most important character in the show. And I think that is the reason why we know nothing about him, because once Oda starts sharing stuff about Dragon,
it's going to reveal everything.
We're going to be like, oh,
yeah, this all makes sense. I think, to be fair, there's a Shamrock and Shanks thing too.
Yeah.
I think like once we find out more about these characters, I think it is going to reveal so much stuff, and it's going to make things even more clear.
And I do feel like that kind of. I think the reason that Kaido maybe suffers under that a little bit more is because that was supposed to be his big arc, and I think maybe because I mean, very like even the Odin flashback with Roger and early like God Valley and whatnot, that very clearly Oda was saving a lot with Kaido for now and for probably like a little bit later on also with like Lunarian, like the entire King situation that's going to become very important, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So King is going to stay important as a character too, of course.
100%. So, in terms of other villains, though, because real quick, I'm going to give you at least 5.
I'm so sorry.
I want to get to these 5 because people are going to be like, what the heck? Like I said, I had a list of 15 I was trying to pull up, but I'm like, I can give you 5. Yes. Another one I just genuinely really love, and now I don't think he's anywhere near as deep of a character as Kaido is in terms of theming. But no, but I don't think he's anywhere as like deep as Kaido is in terms of theming, but I do think I find him a much more entertaining and interesting villain as Eneru. Genuinely, I think the whole thing with like being a false god, and especially now knowing what's going on in the series and like the existences potentially of like these real deities, he doesn't lose. He literally doesn't lose. He just goes away. Story arc. He's like, well, you know what? I guess I'm not affecting this dude. I'm hopping on in this thing. I got punched in the face. I'm hitting the bell. I'm out of here. And he goes to the moon. Like that's amazing.
He goes on the moon on a vehicle that is actually we see in the mural also.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, come on. Like, to me, that type of thing, that type of tie into the story, like, if you're making the argument about lore for Kaido and him being interesting, that these other characters, even to some extent, I would say Crocodile, who I think is a very, like, cut and dry kind of villain, right? When you still get to him. Well, we have
he evolves afterwards too, right?
Yes. But he, I think, develops in a way that furthers the story along and his own story along that's to his benefit as opposed to the benefit of other characters, which is where I feel like Kaido's was going. So
I do even with Crocodile, we have the same theme as with Kaido and Big Mom. There's like villains who want to create a better world, a utopia, and kind of being corrupted in the way they go about it, right?
Also, people made this argument real quick. I just got to
no, please.
People made this argument. I'm like, you're wrong. You're looking at this because you don't want to think of them like this. Buggy.
Oh yeah,
literally, Buggy is a villain. Like
Buggy's a great villain.
He is a villain. He is a fantastic villain. And people were like, Buggy is not a villain in the story. What are you talking about?
Of course.
Of course he is. What are you like? He's literally one of the other. Like he is absolutely a villain, and I would also consider him one that would be.
Yeah, Buggy's great. Buggy's. I mean,
Blackbeard. Another one.
I think Buggy is.
Kaido.
I think Buggy is Oda's favorite character.
Oh, easily, far and away. You see what's happening with him. Again, Blackbeard is another.
I think with Blackbeard, I think it's gonna. I think Blackbeard. Whenever people throw him in, I think it's too early to call the shots yet.
Don't know. I mean, Blackbeard being the one that was responsible for getting Ace there. Blackbeard, all this stuff that happens at the end of Marineford.
Like his big plan.
Yes. With Whitebeard, like all of that kind of stuff. And now the tie with the Davy stuff, again, to the benefit of his character versus the narrative as a whole. And I think that is the key distinction between like a villain that I like and why I would consider them like a top One Piece villain versus like one that is there and is fine and is like written okay. But realistically, I think everybody in One Piece is kind of written pretty well because it's One Piece.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, there's not really, like, the story itself is good. When we say bad arcs, we're not saying, like, the arc is just absolutely terrible and there's no redeeming qualities to it. And I think so many people nowadays see things as, like, black and white without shades of gray and hear that, like, oh, one of their 5 isn't their favorite 5 and take it personally.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this whole big...
No, it's just fun to talk about.
I know.
I take it very personally.
No, I know you don't. But what I'm saying is...
You're on my list now.
Yeah, right. I think there are a lot of people literally within, like, the community now who specifically ones who are like, you know, and this is a whole nother conversation about like social media.
I was about to say this goes, we talked about this earlier, right? Where I feel like ever since like, I mean, it really started with COVID.
Yes. I think it was even before that, to be honest.
You always had, obviously, like the internet was never like a nice place. And you always had like polarizing comments. Sure. But I feel like in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been like, whatever the topic, if it's your favorite One Piece villain or a sports match.
Yep.
We don't even need to talk about politics.
No. Like, but still, I mean,
social media comments are the most and again, not everyone, obviously.
Yeah,
like there's, but like,
even the fact that you have to make that caveat, I think is it just goes to show like how far as a society we have fallen. Yeah. The fact that you have, like, if I give an opinion in a video, you're watching a review video, okay? It's a video with my reaction and my review. It is titled that. If the literacy has fallen so far that people read review and cannot make that distinction in their head that this isn't fact, this is somebody's opinion, and that you have to say, well, I'm just saying this is my opinion first, I think is just not a good sign for things. But it's also,
I think it also doesn't, like, you can say whatever you want and someone's going to find gripe with it. Yeah, I think, well, I mean, this is, as you say, a larger discussion about how I think in general the world just doesn't feel like very hopeful right now, and I think a lot of people feel like kind of like that's their only way to channel that. Yeah,
it's like through talking about the things that they love or whatever.
Which ironically, again, since I like have really detoxed hard on YouTube and like social media in general, I've been having a lot more fun.
Feels good, right? When you're not on Twitter constantly. I know. I've used Twitter and Blue Sky even to some extent of just literally promoting streams and videos. I'm like, I probably would get rid of my Twitter honestly if it wasn't like tied to brand deals. So many times, like, I'll do a sponsored stream or a sponsored post and they'll be like, oh, could you do a tweet promoting it? And I have like a lot of people on Twitter, so I'm like, sure, whatever, like I'll make this tweet, but I don't like using it. I don't like interacting with, I like using it as like a photo album, but even then I could use Instagram for that. Like there's gonna come a point very soon, I think, that once like the brands and the people who like make us money as content creators are like getting off the platform.
I think no one is on Twitter anymore.
I don't know.
Really?
I think, maybe it's because I'm in like the gaming space more, but I feel like so many of the gaming companies, like whenever I end up doing like media kits or write things up of like what I'm going to do.
I think once the most brand companies realize that on Twitter, you're just paying for bot views.
Yes, literally. Yeah, it's quite literally, and you see this even with the check marks, right? With like used to be that it meant something. If you had a check mark on YouTube, it was like, cool, this is verified, this person, you know they're actually saying it. And now it's like, and someone could literally make Rogers Base 2 as their name and verify it with like, you know, they're paid $5 a month or whatever it is, right? And then say whatever they want. It's like, it's terrible. It's stupid. Yeah, so.
Not even talking about the fact that you just go on there and you see like videos of people dying,
literally,
or whatever. I'm like,
it used to be porn bots constantly. Yeah. It was like every other one underneath was like some type of porn bot or AI things. Now there's the whole thing where like it'll be an AI reply that'll be like, this is so cool.
It's just AI replying to itself,
and it's replying to itself and blocking the original poster. So then you go to read the reply, and it's not anything bad, and you see you're blocked. You're like, why did you even comment? But it was to get that extra interaction. It's just like so stupid. Yeah, and it feels so far removed from like the actual world, but people are so ingrained in it that it just becomes so toxic.
No, it's insane. It's like, I mean, for me, literally cured my anxiety stopping.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wow. I have like 8 million different other things to talk about.
8 minutes.
And we got 8 minutes to wrap it up. God damn it. Was there anything that, because I threw a lot of stuff on
was
your
like
head.
One Piece
Was there
related?
anything? Oh, one thing I wanted to ask, and this is more like if you remember this, I keep in my videos, I keep saying that Enel built his Arc Maxime based on blueprints that he found in a temple.
Love that. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Like
but
Uranus blueprint type thing.
I thought, was that not in the manga? Am I like hallucinating that was a thing that actually was said?
I don't think it was blueprints. Wasn't it something? I mean, I thought it was even something like a mural, which ironically is
or like something he found in the temple, right?
Right.
Like there were like some.
Assuming that the world was more connected back then, because obviously technology.
Okay, but I'm not imagining that was in the story. I don't think you're
imagining things. No, I do think there is some tie with like Verth and then the stuff with the moon and like all the stuff that's going on in the temples and
the
like
Earth God.
All the there you go. Yeah. So I don't think you are imagining. Things. No, I do think it's based on some type of like ancient technology. Yeah.
Do you think that Okay. So. How do I start?
Fire? Let's go.
How do I rapid fire? And I'm already like amming here.
Yeah.
So we basically got this big reveal that basically One Piece is like post sci-fi, right? We're like in a post-apocalyptic world. Like there used to be, we don't know yet if it's
robots.
we don't know if it's like our world or even like a little bit more sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
But like there's space travel and whatnot.
Sure.
And it turns out that a lot of the crazy stuff might just be advanced tech, right? Do you think, but then at the same time, it does very much feel like there is a certain magical elements to the power system too.
Sure.
Do you think that at a certain level, they're like devil fruits, for example. Do you
Sure.
think that is just like a magic system, or do you think we're going to find out that that is actually a lot more technology based too?
I think it's more like a religion system. As weird as that, like I really do. I think it's like more tied to like, again, those gods being actual deities, not necessarily magic, but quite literally like the religion of the world,
Yeah.
the core religion of this universe, and like how that branches off, as opposed to just being like, you know, people have these powers and they come from these weird things. I don't necessarily think it's like, I wouldn't classify it as magic. Whereas the technology side of things, I think we're literally seeing that in the story with like artificial devil fruits.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And like even in the mural where you've got the conveyor belt, right, of the people bringing things down and the stuff coming back out. Like, I do think there is something there in terms of them being manufactured, but like by what and through what extent? Like if Imu is literally the devil, right, and is able to infuse powers into like these yokai powers into all of these Gorosei, could that potentially be something in which like Imu was able to infuse other powers in the same way like the devil is tempting somebody, right? Like, I'll give you your wildest dreams if you know, make a deal with me. Where it's like, here we go. Sure, you get this power and you get this power and you get this power, and infusing a little bit of his literal like demon powers into these fruits and putting them out in the world, and then the world finding these fruits, not knowing how to understand it, not knowing like the religious connections, not knowing how it ties to the previous worlds, and then trying to replicate it using their technology and clearly failing. And then now you get these eternal smiles on your face. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff in the story that contextually ties all that stuff together.
By the way, random thought, but the entire thing with Nika smiling and, you know, the D-Clan smiling, and then, well, Kaido, by the way, also, and the smile fruits, right? I'm just like, it's like little details like that, right?
Yep.
One other little theory I wanted to present to you.
Hear it, please. We got the straw hat.
I talked about this recently, right? The hockey weaving idea.
Sure, I love it.
And we talked about the little puns that Oda loves doing.
Sure.
I really like the idea that, like, and I'm not the first person to think about that specifically, that Mugiwara obviously ends in wara, which is laughter.
Sure.
And then Muki could be like eternal laughter, right? So the entire, and then we obviously know that Joy Boy had the straw hat, and so we have the second straw hat.
Yep.
Do you think that the straw hat is more than just an accessory that has a lot of meaning? As in, do you think the straw hat itself is maybe woven with hockey, is maybe even, is maybe you know this probably when you go to shrines in Japan, they have the shimanawa, which is the straw ropes to bind literally the gods.
Yes.
Right?
I think the actual straw hat that Luffy has, and that was Shanks's and was Roger's, is a symbol. I think the actual straw hat in that idea is the one we saw in Marijoa. Because what the hell is going on?
That is frozen,
Why is it in like frozen? What is there's not a body attached to it. Why is it in there? Why is Imu there is I totally can buy that theory for sure. I do not think it is Luffy's. I think that is more of like a symbol to what the actual original like true straw hat was, and that throughout the generations like the story was passed on.
Okay,
it was
interesting.
woven maybe with hockey. Sure, who knows?
But it could also be I kind of like the idea, especially now that we saw Rocks communicating with Roger and Garp like in their heads, right?
Yeah. Well, and I kind of wonder, potentially being the first time that we've ever seen Roger, I believe, in the story interacting with the voice of all things.
Yes,
that
exactly.
is his moment. Like, that's also super
What's
interesting.
happening there?
Right?
And also, you can kind of ask the question, wouldn't it be, because the famous scene of Roger laughing, he's kind of like, oh, Joe Boy, I wish, and I think we all kind of expect that they're like standing in front of like some poneglyph wall.
Sure.
Wouldn't it be like kind of crazy if he's actually like talking to Joy Boy?
I mean, that would be
whether like maybe in a straw hat, or maybe like, I mean, it would be kind of wild if like Joy Boy himself is just sealed away on Laugh Tale.
I mean, it would be kind of wild also too if like when you put all the poneglyphs together, right? It's almost like you're reading scripture.
Oh, like
the
Millennium Puzzle.
Exactly. Like I could see a situation in which that happens as well, right?
That would be kind of sick.
Because I do think that maybe could go into like our last One Piece related topic, right? Which is Robin, right? And the idea of like the dreams of all these characters coming true, right? And when you look at these dreams, there's really two that stand out that are like, these could happen before the end of the story, right? Like thematically, I don't see a world in which Zoro becomes the greatest swordsman before we are at the end. I don't see a world in which Luffy becomes the Pirate King until we're at the end. The All Blue, same thing. But there are two in particular that I think are a little weird, which are Usopp's and Robin's, right? Usopp's the brave warrior of the sea thing, potentially like alluding to him maybe dying at one point, or like, which I think could very well happen, which I don't want to see happen, but I think could happen. And the other one being Robin. Robin's dream is just to create the real poneglyph. Like, it's literally to read the true history of the world.
The true history,
but when you find out the true history of the world, you're going to understand the One Piece. Like, that's a key to getting to the point, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm almost wondering if like she's the other one kind of like waving the death flags right now. The other one that's kind of like, I hate bringing this up too, because this was something that I didn't love the execution of, is Jimbei, right? That Jimbei, his dream is to, you know, free the fishmen and bring them up. Great, you know, that's going to naturally happen within the story. When the red line is you know, destroyed, the fishermen come up, like they'll live on the same level. Like that's something that will happen.
Or the earth gets deflooded.
Or the earth gets, sure, whatever. But Jimbei, I think the weird thing with him that I didn't love, which another thing I didn't like in Wano Country, was him showing up seemingly unscathed from that entire situation with Big Mom, kind of negating everything that we heard about her and saw about her in Whole Cake and how terrifying she is. But I think that is one of those things that when we find out what it actually was, could be fascinating, because if he bought himself just enough time to get to the end of One Piece with Luffy and dies and says, I did what I needed to do. I was your helmsman. I got you here. And then like that would be incredible.
That would be pretty cool.
Because then that way
that would be pretty tragic.
It would be tragic, but realistically at least gives us what we were kind of missing from that moment of him showing. It was a great moment when he showed up in Wano. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's happy to see him again.
I guess theoretically you could also make the argument that that could become a problem and then Nami uses Zeus.
That could also be the thing. Maybe as like a homie to infuse more life, or like how that works. I kind of like that idea. Yeah. But I do think the Jimbei thing is a weird thing that's kind of left over from Whole Cake that I don't think it's something that's going to be unanswered. I trust Oda will answer it.
Again, if it happens, half the One Piece fandom is going to be up in arms, but I still, in my heart of hearts, haven't scrapped the possibility that Big Mom's coming back in the story.
She's for sure coming back. I mean, there's
the infinite ties to Elbaph that are
no doubt. I mean, there's literally no doubt that's going to happen. I think even too, like when you think of Moria and Blackbeard and like even Yamato's story, having like all these little fun adventures in Wano. And then the one big thing that's really important, by the way, not to cut you off, but the one big thing that's important in Yamato's story being the Moria connection and Moria infusing his shadows into dead body. And like, if Kaido is actually dead, if Kaido is somehow fossilized in the lava of Wano or whatever, right? Something in which Moria, like what, especially when you tie back to Kaido's character, right? Like what better way, right, of humiliating Kaido and to have this noble death and to go out this weird way. What better way to humiliate him than to have the guy whose crew he decimated without a second thought? Like his M. Bison, it was, you know, for me, it was Tuesday or whatever. Like for the person that he decimated to be the one to then use him in this final war, infusing his corpse with shadows and like making him be like that, I think thematically could work really well for both Kaido and Moria's character, but that's like a whole nother thing.
Also, it would be a very Oda thing to do that like Big Mom comes out of the volcano and it's just like back to her like slim self because she sweated it out.
Yeah, exactly. Sweated it out.
Like sauna.
Exactly.
Like a sauna.
So I actually think Kaido and Big Mom can both come back, and I think there's interesting ways in which you can do it that don't make me hate it.
Yeah, in a weird way, I kind of went from if this happens, it would kind of suck to now I almost want them back in the story to like finish their arcs a little bit better.
I agree.
One thing also, like very quickly wrapping it up on Robin, it is, I mean, alone the fact that she spent 2 years with Dragon and the Revolutionaries, and we have to this day no freaking clue what they actually like.
And that she's seemingly not told the Straw Hats
she doesn't
any of this.
She knows so much. She's not saying anything.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
She knows so much. She's like,
she
and like she's very much the missing link there with like Dragon. Do you think Dragon could be Robin's dad?
I hope not.
You don't like that?
I don't like that idea at all. I hope not. I don't like the idea that Robin and Luffy are
half siblings. No,
I don't love that. I mean, timeline wise, I think it could make sense. But I really, really don't love that idea. Yeah. I like that the whole Straw Hat crew at the very least is like found family.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of them actually being, even if it's one of them, being like blood related is weird to me. I wouldn't hate it.
I wouldn't. I think
Robin,
I
don't think if I was reading it, if I'm picturing myself reading the chapter for the first time and that's the reveal, I don't know how I would react. It really depends on the framing.
Maybe.
Like I
think with Robin specifically, I think it could be okay just because she lost her family and was alone for so long. And yes, she has her found family, but also knowing.
Does she know? But then the answer.
And she knows.
Does she know that, because obviously Crocodile would have known that Dragon is Luffy's father, right? Did she know then that like she was Luffy's sister, like half sister in Alabasta? Like to me, that opens up a whole nother can of worms. And like,
true.
I don't think that would necessarily even be something. There's
but then she
things
wouldn't
that, like,
have. She wouldn't have known then, right? She would have only learned it during the time skip potentially.
Well,
she might have.
She might have, right? Because of all the like the poneglyphs and like her because again, as a child with Ohara and her mother, like
didn't Oda in the cover? I should have brought it. Like draw an orange hair person too. Who was that? Like was it Sommers who has orange hair?
Oh,
now?
the Nami thing.
Yeah.
That, like Sommers is maybe Nami. I would be less bothered by that than I would be, I think, by Robin and Luffy being siblings. I think the Sommers. I mean, to me, we've seen this already time and time again, even with Bonnie, right? With the Celestial Dragon ties, like the idea that like these soldiers are going to these islands and just like raping and pillaging and doing everything and like, you know, creating these new children that they don't care about.
Yeah, bastards basically.
You see this with Garling literally killing. Yes, exactly. Same thing. So yeah, I don't see a world in which I would like the Robin and Luffy thing necessarily, but the Nami thing for me, I think would be totally fine. Yeah.
I would at this point almost be like salty if she's not someone
related to somebody that you know. Yeah. I mean, for such a long time, even like, you know, before we knew all the stuff with Kuma, there was all the stuff with like the cake ship and people thinking with Bonnie and Big Mom and the lips, or like we saw that even too with, I'm trying to remember, like even with the Vinsmokes again, like Ichiji and Niji with like Killer never showing his face prior to that point, Bellamy like not having the eyebrows, them saying where they were from initially, like the Ichiji Niji thing, like them hiding their name. Like there's a lot of weird stuff that was there that like it's funny to look back on and being like, there's no way this is gonna happen. But like at the time
it was pretty big.
And so I'm wondering even where we are currently in the story, like what those things are that like right now seems so crazy, or like maybe we're not even paying attention to that like 20 chapters from now we look back and we're like, it all makes total sense. This is how the, you know,
like the Lego thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Or was that just Oda being really excited that he got news they're going to make a Lego set?
Exactly. Yeah.
They're like, can you put it in the manga? He's like, absolutely.
I got you, man. Let's do this whole big thing.
Hold my beer. Last
so
question
funny.
then.
Let's go.
Does Luffy die at the end of One Piece? Does Luffy even need to die at the end of One Piece?
I think Luffy, if we get an epilogue, right, dies. I don't think it matters. I really don't, because I think he will achieve his dream. Unquestionably, he's going to achieve his dream and he will die happy. I don't think it's going to be like he dies in the final fight or something, but I absolutely could see a world in which we get an epilogue. We've seen everyone has achieved their dreams. He has become the Pirate King. But again, it's something where like Brook is singing at his grave or something with the Straw Hat. But it doesn't matter because again, he is the pirate. There's the idea of like the power structure of the world doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Like the world has been liberated. And
I just
freed.
think that
he's the Pirate King.
I just think like a freed One Piece world almost is boring for Luffy to a certain degree, right?
He's like he's seen everything. Like
I'm sure, like I know I'm very.
This
is actually like an actual controversial take. I know a lot of people hate that idea, but I think I could see Luffy like sacrificing himself for the world at the end.
I could totally see that. Yeah.
Especially with potentially like the Eternal Flame being something very destructive, and like the Nika powers potentially being.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't hate that.
All right.
For me as Luffy, I like Luffy as a character. Like I don't think there's really any way, even with like what we've gotten in the story and like some of the weirder power-ups, there's nothing I think
at this point
that would make me like dislike Luffy at this point, you know?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get to talk about a lot of other things. I wanted to talk about Pokemon and Nintendo and your podcast that you're doing. But we ended up just doing like a full. I think we could have gone for like probably another 3 hours. Easily.
If I was not going to this developer dinner, I literally would stay here for another 2 hours.
But yeah, let's quickly. Can you let people know where to find you? You have two beautiful podcasts and a YouTube and a Twitch.
Yes, I do. Yeah. So basically, you could find me everywhere. Roger.
I mean, the links are obviously.
YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. I mostly cover One Piece and Nintendo, obviously. Those are my two great loves. But yeah, on top of that, I'm part of the Japan Time podcast, which we've been doing for 10 years now. Insane. We just had a giant merch run, lots of cool stuff, have our trip to Japan. So we're all hanging out, a lot Geeks Plus, family. Aru is part of it. So really, really cool to see this. And so yeah, we're having the big Japan Time trip. And then also I have a podcast for my members on YouTube, Touch Base with Rogers Base, which a little bit of a breaking news
exclusive
is actually changing into a different format in 2026 in a way that I'm like really excited about. I think it's going to be really cool. So look forward to that. But yeah,
all in the description. Please do.
Yeah.
And was as always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I mean,
again.
I honestly,
the
I'm
timing,
almost
worked out perfect.
I'm almost salty we didn't get to Pokemon stuff because I really have thoughts on Legends Arceus, which I just finished playing, and then on Legends DA. But I think we're gonna have to postpone it.
To be fair, I'm here until the 13th.
So maybe we can talk about it.
Maybe we can figure out something. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for watching.
Take care, everybody.